Everything you know exists because a few ancient humans survived. That's it. Every nation, every language, every city skyline, every book, every invention, every person alive today, all of it traces back to a handful of fragile ancestors who somehow endured a world determined to eliminate them. And here's the truly incredible part. They had no idea what they were creating. A spark of fire, a journey across an unfamiliar landscape, a seed planted beside a river, a symbol carved into stone, tiny moments, massive consequences. Tonight we're following the greatest chain reaction in human history. The extraordinary journey from humanity's first footsteps to the rise of modern civilization. Before we begin, take a moment to like the video and subscribe for more relaxing journeys through history. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there right now. Now dim the lights, get comfortable, and let's travel back to the beginning. Section 1. First footsteps on ancient Earth. Tonight, you are about to step into a forgotten world, long before civilization, where every night could be your last. The air feels different here. It carries the scent of damp earth-crushed leaves and distant rain. Shadows stretch beneath towering trees, while strange calls echo through forests untouched by roads or cities. Somewhere nearby, unseen creatures move through the undergrowth. Somewhere beyond the horizon, countless generations of your descendants remain unimaginable. If you could stand in this ancient world, would you recognize the first fragile steps that eventually led to everything around you today? The answer is not as obvious as it seems. Humanity did not appear suddenly. There was no single morning when the first human opened their eyes and announced the beginning of history. Instead, the journey unfolded across millions of years, through countless small changes that barely seemed important at the time. Tiny adjustments, small advantages. Yet those modest shifts would transform the world. Before we step deeper into the darkness of tonight's story, take a moment to like the video and subscribe for more calming historical journeys. And while you settle in, leave a comment sharing your location and locality. It is always fascinating to see where fellow travelers are listening from as we wander through the distant past together. Now dim the lights and imagine yourself standing in Eastern Africa nearly 7 million years ago. The landscape looks both familiar and unfamiliar. Wide grasslands stretch between patches of woodland. Rivers carve winding paths through fertile valleys. Volcanic mountains rise quietly in the distance beneath vast skies. The evening air feels warm. A breeze brushes against your skin. You hear insects humming among tall grasses while birds circle overhead. The world seems peaceful at first glance, yet survival remains uncertain every single day. You are not alone. Nearby lives a small population of creatures who resemble neither modern humans nor modern apes exactly. Their bodies represent an early stage in a long evolutionary experiment. Scientists continue discovering clues about these ancient relatives. One famous example is Lucy, whose fossilized remains helped researchers understand how some early ancestors walked upright. Lucy lived much later than the earliest human relatives, but she offers an important glimpse into this transformative period. Walking on 2 legs changed everything. At first, the advantage may seem surprisingly modest. Standing upright allowed individuals to see farther across grasslands. Their hands remained free to carry food infants or useful objects. Over countless generations, those small benefits accumulated. Evolution rarely rushes. Instead, it works patiently. You move through a world where every advantage matters. The ground beneath your feet feels uneven and warm. Dust clings to your skin. Nearby trees provide shade from the afternoon sun. The smell of wet soil lingers after seasonal rains. Nothing here resembles civilization. There are no farms, no villages, no written records, yet the foundations of humanity are already forming. Many researchers believe changing climates played an important role. Forests periodically expanded and contracted across Africa. Populations adapted to shifting environments. Some spent more time moving across open landscapes than their ancestors had before. Historians cannot observe these moments directly, of course. The evidence survives only in scattered fossils, ancient sediments, and careful scientific interpretation. Even then, debates continue. Researchers still disagree about exactly which environmental pressures pushed early ancestors toward bipedal movement. Multiple factors may have worked together, rather than a single cause. The uncertainty remains part of the story. As evening approaches, golden light spreads across the savanna. Long shadows stretch across the grass. Small groups gather near patches of vegetation where food remains available. Life moves at a slower pace here, yet danger never disappears. Large predators roam nearby. Crocodiles wait beside rivers. Venomous snakes hide beneath rocks and roots. Every sound matters, every scent provides information. You begin to understand something important. Early survival depended not on strength alone, but on awareness. The ability to notice details often meant the difference between life and death. A rustle in the grass, a distant call, fresh tracks beside water. These observations became valuable skills passed through generations. One curious detail often surprises modern audiences. Some fossil evidence suggests that several different human-like species may have existed simultaneously. Rather than a simple line from primitive ancestor to modern human evolution, resembled a branching tree with many experiments occurring at once. Most branches eventually disappeared. Only one remained. For now, nobody knows precisely why. As twilight deepens, sounds change throughout the landscape. Daytime birds grow quieter. Nocturnal creatures emerge. The temperature drops slightly, bringing relief from the heat. The night feels enormous. Stars begin appearing. Peering overhead, you look upward and see a sky untouched by artificial light. Thousands upon thousands of stars shine across the darkness. The Milky Way stretches like a luminous river above the world. Those stars watched everything. They witnessed the earliest steps of humanity. They observed species rise and vanish. They remained constant while generations came and went. Perhaps somewhere beneath a similar sky, an ancestor pauses for a moment and gazes upward with curiosity. It is impossible to know exactly what thoughts occupied that ancient mind. Yet many scholars suspect curiosity itself became one of humanity's defining traits. The urge to explore, the desire to understand, the instinct to ask what lies beyond the next hill. Those impulses would eventually carry descendants across deserts, mountains, oceans, and continents. But tonight, that future remains unimaginably distant. For now, survival dominates every hour. You listen carefully as darkness settles over the land. Cool air drifts through the grasses. The scent of vegetation mixes with distant rain, carried by shifting winds. The world feels vast. You feel very small. And yet something remarkable has already begun. Among these scattered populations of upright walkers exists the potential for language art, agriculture, cities, science, and every civilization yet to come. Not because anyone planned it, not because destiny demanded it, simply because countless generations continued adapting, surviving, and passing life forward. The journey has only begun. Ahead lie Ice Age's migrations, discoveries, and transformations beyond imagination. Future humans will cross continents and build monuments. They will tell stories beside fires, and eventually launch machines into space. But none of that happens without these first uncertain steps. As the ancient night deepens around you, insects continue their steady chorus. Wind moves softly through the grasslands. Somewhere in the darkness, unseen eyes watch from afar. The long human story has started, and you are walking beside its earliest chapters. Section 2. Learning to walk together. Morning arrives slowly across the ancient African landscape. Pale sunlight spreads over grasslands, still damp from the night. Cool air brushes against your skin, while distant birds announce another uncertain day. The smell of wet earth rises from the ground, mixing with the scent of wild vegetation warmed by the first rays of sun. You move with a small group, not because you must, because surviving alone is becoming increasingly difficult. The earliest stages of humanity's journey were never truly solitary. Even millions of years ago, cooperation offered advantages that no individual could easily achieve alone. Food could be shared. Warnings could be given. Young offspring could receive protection from multiple caregivers. Simple ideas, powerful results. You watch as several adults move through a patchwork of woodland and open grass. Some search for edible plants. Others remain alert for danger. Youngsters stay close, learning by observation rather than instruction. There are no schools here, no teachers, yet learning happens constantly. A child notices which berries are safe to eat. Another watches how adults locate water during dry periods. Knowledge travels through imitation memory and repetition. These lessons matter. Mistakes can be costly. The world around you remains beautiful, but unforgiving. Tall grasses sway beneath the wind. Acacia trees cast scattered shadows. Insects buzz through the warm air. Far away, thunder rolls across distant hills. You hear many sounds. Everyone deserves attention. A crack of branches may signal a feeding animal. A sudden silence among birds may hint at a nearby predator. The landscape communicates continuously to those willing to listen. As generations pass, cooperation becomes increasingly important. Groups capable of working together often gain subtle advantages. They find resources more efficiently. They protect vulnerable members more successfully. They adapt more effectively when environments change. None of this happens overnight. Evolution rarely rewards impatience. Instead, tiny benefits accumulate across thousands of generations. What seems insignificant during a single lifetime may transform a species over immense stretches of time. You begin to notice something else. Relationships matter. Among early human ancestors, social bonds likely became more complex than those of many other animals. Individuals remembered one another. They formed alliances. They recognized familiar faces. Trust gradually acquired enormous value. Imagine forgetting who helped you find food yesterday. That would be unfortunate. Imagine remembering instead. That memory might save your life. Modern scientists often point to growing social complexity as one reason human intelligence expanded over time. Living within larger, more cooperative groups required individuals to track relationships, recognize emotions, and anticipate behavior. Brains became useful social tools, not merely survival tools. The smell of ripe fruit drifts through nearby trees. Several members of the group gather food, while others remain watchful. Youngsters imitate older individuals with varying degrees of success. Some are skilled, some are not. Human nature, it seems, was already displaying familiar patterns. One fascinating possibility suggests that shared childcare played an important role in human development. Unlike many species, early humans may have relied on grandparents, siblings, and unrelated adults to help raise young children. Researchers continue studying this idea. The evidence remains incomplete, yet many scholars believe cooperative caregiving helped support increasingly complex social structures. More caregivers meant greater opportunities for learning and protection. The exact details remain uncertain. Anthropologists still debate how extensive these caregiving networks truly were among early ancestors. Fossils reveal physical clues, but social behavior leaves fewer traces behind. Some mysteries refuse easy answers. As midday approaches, temperatures climb steadily. Heat radiates from rocks beneath your feet. The air becomes heavier. Cicadas create a constant background hum that seems to vibrate through the landscape itself. You seek shade. Everyone does. Beneath a cluster of trees, the group rests during the hottest hours. Some groom one another, removing dirt and parasites. To modern observers, grooming might appear trivial. It was anything but. Among social animals, grooming strengthens bonds. It builds trust. It reinforces group identity. In many ways, it serves as an ancient form of social communication. Long before written language, long before spoken stories, connection already mattered. A quirky observation from researchers highlights this beautifully. Some scientists suggest that human conversation eventually replaced portions of grooming behavior. Talking allowed larger groups to maintain social bonds more efficiently than physical grooming alone. Imagine gossip as an evolutionary innovation, not the most glamorous invention, but surprisingly effective. The afternoon passes peacefully. Clouds drift overhead. Wind carries the scent of distant rain. Small animals dart between grasses, while larger creatures move carefully toward water sources. You walk beside the group once more. Something feels different now. The landscape remains dangerous. Survival remains uncertain. Yet a growing sense of shared purpose seems to emerge among these early communities. Perhaps no individual understands it consciously. Perhaps nobody notices at all. Yet cooperation is slowly reshaping humanity's future. When food becomes scarce, sharing resources may help the group survive. When danger appears, multiple eyes provide better protection than one. When young members learn from experienced adults, knowledge persists beyond a single lifetime. That last point matters enormously. Knowledge is becoming portable, not through books, through people. A useful skill learned today might survive decades through observation and imitation. Each generation inherits more than genes. It inherits experience. That process changes everything. The sun begins sinking toward the horizon. Golden light washes across the grasslands. Long shadows stretch between scattered trees. Birds return to nesting places, while nocturnal creatures prepare to emerge. Evening brings relief. The air cools gradually. You hear distant animal calls echoing across open terrain. The smell of dust softens as temperatures fall. Above, the sky shifts through shades of orange and violet. The group gathers together, not accidentally, deliberately. Night remains dangerous. Staying close increases safety. Familiar companions offer reassurance against uncertainty lurking beyond the darkness. This simple gathering carries profound significance. Millions of years later, humans will still seek companionship during difficult times. They will build families, communities, villages, cities, and nations. The scale will change dramatically. The instinct remains recognizable. As stars begin appearing overhead, you reflect upon the remarkable power of cooperation. No great monuments exist yet. No kingdoms rise above the horizon. No civilizations leave records for future generations. Still, something essential is already present. The realization that surviving together often works better than surviving alone. That lesson echoes throughout human history. Empires will depend upon it. Cultures will depend upon it. Civilization itself will depend upon it. For now, however, the lesson remains beautifully simple. A small group gathers beneath an immense sky. Cool wind moves gently through the grass. Familiar faces settle nearby. The night approaches, and humanity learns little by little to walk forward together. Section 3. Fire in the darkness. The night is deep now. Stars cover the sky in astonishing numbers, scattered across the darkness like grains of silver dust. A cool breeze drifts over the grasslands, carrying the scent of dry earth, distant water, and wild animals moving beyond sight. Somewhere nearby, insects sing their endless evening chorus. You sit with your group beneath the open sky. The darkness feels immense, and for countless generations, darkness has been one of humanity's greatest challenges. When the sun disappears, the world changes. Familiar paths become uncertain. Predators gain advantages. Temperatures fall. Strange sounds emerge from beyond the edge of vision. Night belongs to others, at least for now. You listen carefully. A distant growl, echoes across the landscape. Leaves rustle somewhere nearby. Every sound seems amplified beneath the vast canopy of stars. Then imagine something extraordinary. A small flicker appears. Not lightning, not sunlight, not the glow of the moon. Fire. At first, early humans did not create fire themselves. Most likely they encountered it in nature. Lightning strikes ignited dry grass. Volcanic activity occasionally sparked flames. Wildfires swept across parts of the landscape. These events were frightening, but they were also fascinating. Imagine standing at a safe distance from a natural fire. Warm air presses against your skin. Smoke drifts upward into the night sky. Shadows dance across nearby trees. The sight is unforgettable. Even dangerous things can inspire curiosity. Some early groups may have learned to preserve naturally occurring flames. Rather than creating fire from scratch, they carried burning branches or maintained smoldering embers for extended periods. Keeping a fire alive required attention. Letting it die carried consequences. Modern researchers generally agree that controlled use of fire became one of the most important developments in human history. The exact timing remains uncertain, however. Evidence suggests fire use may have emerged gradually over hundreds of thousands of years, rather than through a single breakthrough. That uncertainty frustrates historians and fascinates them. Archaeological sites provide clues, but clues are not always complete stories. Burned bones, charcoal deposits, and altered stone surfaces suggest human involvement. Yet interpretation can be challenging. Some scholars propose earlier dates, others remain cautious. The debate continues. Tonight, though, you simply observe the experience itself. The warmth feels comforting, especially after sunset. Cool evening air no longer seems quite so threatening when a steady flame glows nearby. The fire creates a small island of light surrounded by darkness, a tiny circle of security. The smell changes too. Wood smoke drifts through the air. Dry branches crackle softly as they burn. The scent lingers on skin, clothing, and nearby vegetation. For ancient humans, this smell may have become deeply familiar, a sign of safety, a sign of community, a sign that night could be endured. You notice another advantage almost immediately. Predators often hesitate near fire. Not always, not universally. But flames create uncertainty, even for powerful animals. That uncertainty matters. A little extra protection can change survival odds significantly. As generations pass, fire becomes increasingly important. People gather around it after long days. They share food nearby. They remain together during cold evenings. The simple act of sitting around a fire begins shaping social life itself. Some researchers even suggest that evenings around fire encouraged longer conversations and stronger social bonds. The idea is difficult to prove, yet it feels surprisingly plausible. Imagine darkness surrounding your group while warm light flickers across familiar faces. There are fewer distractions, more opportunities to observe one another, more chances to communicate. Stories may have begun flourishing here, not written stories, spoken ones. Perhaps someone imitates an animal encountered earlier. Perhaps another reenacts a dangerous escape. Perhaps children listen closely while older members share useful knowledge. Nobody records these moments, yet they may have influenced human development profoundly. The fire crackles softly. The stars remain overhead, and conversation becomes possible in new ways. One particularly intriguing theory suggests that cooking food transformed humanity almost as much as fire itself. Raw food often requires significant chewing and digestion. Cooking softens many foods, making nutrients easier to access. The implications are enormous. More available energy may have supported larger brains over time. Many scientists view cooking as a critical factor in human evolution. Yet historians and anthropologists still debate exactly how much influence it had compared with other evolutionary pressures. There is rarely a single answer. Human history prefers complexity. The night deepens further. Sparks drift upward into the darkness before disappearing among the stars. Warmth spreads through the gathering, while cool winds sweep across the surrounding plains. You notice how different everything feels now. The darkness remains, the dangers remain. Yet something fundamental has changed. Humans are beginning to shape their environment, rather than merely react to it. Only in small ways, for now. But small ways matter. A quirky detail from archaeology highlights just how valuable fire became. Some ancient communities appear to have transported embers over considerable distances during migrations. Carrying fire meant carrying warmth protection and cooking capability all at once. Imagine traveling across unfamiliar land while protecting a precious ember. Not gold, not jewels, a glowing coal. Its value would have been immeasurable. As midnight approaches, the landscape grows quieter. Distant animal calls become less frequent. Wind moves gently through tall grasses. Smoke rises steadily into the cool night air. You stare into the flames. Many humans have done the same. Across thousands of generations, across countless continents, across nearly every culture, something about fire captures attention in a way few other things can. The movement is never identical. The shapes shift constantly. Light and shadow dance together in endless variation. Even today, people often find it calming. Perhaps some instincts are ancient indeed. The warmth against your hands feels reassuring. The smell of smoke lingers around the gathering. Nearby, faces glow softly in the flickering light. This is more than comfort. It is transformation. Fire extends waking hours. It changes diets. It influences social behavior. It offers protection. It creates gathering spaces. It encourages experimentation. And humanity is only beginning to understand its possibilities. Far in the future, descendants will use fire to shape metal power engines and launch rockets beyond Earth itself. None of them are here yet. Tonight, the achievement remains beautifully simple. A group of early humans sits together beneath the stars. Darkness surrounds them. Flames illuminate. The ancient night no longer feels quite so overwhelming. A small glow pushes back against the vast darkness, and the long journey toward civilization takes another quiet step forward. Section 4. Across rivers and horizons, the fire burns low by morning. Thin bands of smoke rise into the cool air, while the first sunlight spreads across the horizon. Dew clings to grasses and leaves. Birds begin their daily chorus from nearby trees. The scent of damp earth mixes with fading traces of wood smoke. You wake to a familiar reality. Food must be found. Water must be located. The journey continues. For countless generations, early humans remained travelers. They did not build permanent homes. They did not stay in one place for long. Instead, they followed seasons, resources, and opportunities across an ever-changing landscape. Movement became a way of life. The world itself became home. You begin walking shortly after sunrise. The ground feels cool beneath your feet. Gentle breezes sweep across open grasslands. In the distance, hills rise against a pale blue sky. Every direction offers possibility. Every direction carries risk. Long before roads existed, humanity was already exploring. At first, migrations were gradual. A group might move only a few miles over several months. Another might follow animals toward fresh grazing areas. Small changes accumulated across generations. No one planned a grand expansion, yet one occurred. A family moves slightly farther. Their children settle elsewhere. Their descendants continue onward. Thousands of years pass. The map of humanity slowly expands. Historians often compare this process to ripples spreading across water. Each movement appears modest when viewed individually. Together, they reshape entire continents. You pause beside a river. The water flows steadily over smooth stones, reflecting sunlight in bright flashes. The air smells fresh and clean. Insects skim across the surface while birds gather nearby. Waterways matter enormously. Rivers provide drinking water, attract animals, and support plant life. They also create natural travel routes. Long before anyone drew maps, Rivers guided human movement through unfamiliar territory. You kneel beside the flowing water. It feels cold, refreshing, life-giving. Across countless generations, scenes like this, repeated again and again. Humanity followed the water. As climates shifted, environments transformed. Some regions became drier. Others grew wetter. Forests expanded and contracted. Grasslands advanced and retreated. Adaptation remained essential. Those who adjusted survived. Those who could not often disappeared. Modern research suggests that several waves of migration occurred throughout prehistory. Different groups moved at different times. Some journeys succeeded. Others ended abruptly. The evidence is incomplete, yet the pattern is unmistakable. Humanity kept moving. One of the greatest adventures in history began without anyone realizing it. Imagine standing among a small group preparing to leave familiar territory. The landscape behind you contains known water sources, known dangers, and known opportunities. Ahead lies uncertainty. No guidebooks await. No signs mark the way, only curiosity. Perhaps that combination is more powerful than either alone. You walk through woodland corridors, where sunlight filters through leaves in shifting patterns. The smell of bark and vegetation fills the air. Small animals dart through undergrowth, while distant birds call overhead. The journey feels peaceful. Most days are not dramatic. That is an important truth. Human history often remembers major events while overlooking ordinary moments. Yet most migration consisted of simple walking, gathering food, caring for children, and adapting to changing conditions. History moves slowly, until suddenly it does not. Along the way, humans encounter unfamiliar landscapes. New plants appear. Different animals roam the terrain. Weather patterns change. Knowledge becomes valuable. Flexibility becomes priceless. Groups that learn quickly often thrive. Groups that remain rigid struggle. This lesson will echo throughout all of human history. By midday, temperatures rise steadily. Warm air shimmers above rocky ground. The scent of sun-baked earth fills the landscape. You seek shade beneath scattered trees, while the group rests. During these quiet hours, another remarkable development continues. Tool use improves, not dramatically, gradually. Simple stone tools existed long before this era, but over time they become more refined. Sharp edges help process food. Cutting tools improve efficiency. Small innovations accumulate. A sharper stone may save minutes. Repeated daily, those minutes matter. Repeated across generations, they matter even more. Some archaeological discoveries reveal surprising levels of skill among early toolmakers. Certain stone tools required planning, precision, and practice. Creating them involved more than random strikes. Knowledge was growing. Not written knowledge, practical knowledge, passed from hand to hand. One quirky detail still fascinates researchers. Some ancient stone materials appear to have traveled considerable distances from their original sources. This suggests that early humans occasionally transported valuable resources across large areas. Perhaps they planned ahead, perhaps they traded, perhaps both. The evidence invites questions. The answers remain uncertain. Scholars continue debating exactly how extensive these early exchange networks may have been. Some argue for limited movement of materials. Others suggest surprisingly complex interactions. The ancient world rarely explains itself clearly. As afternoon fades, clouds gather overhead. Wind carries the smell of approaching rain. Leaves rustle softly, while shadows lengthen across the landscape. The group continues onward, one step, then another, then another. Most members focus on immediate needs: food, water, shelter, safety. Yet something larger is unfolding. Without realizing it, humanity is beginning one of the longest journeys in Earth's history. Eventually, descendants will spread across Africa. Later generations will reach Asia, Europe, Australia, and the Americas. Oceans, deserts, mountains, and ice sheets will challenge them all. Those future adventures remain distant, but their foundations are forming now. The willingness to move, the courage to explore, the ability to adapt. Evening approaches once again. The sky glows orange and gold, while birds settle into nesting places. Cooler air arrives with welcome relief after the day's heat. You stop atop a gentle rise. Below stretches an unfamiliar landscape. New valleys, new rivers, new opportunities. No one knows what lies beyond the horizon. That uncertainty feels both frightening and exciting. Perhaps it always has. Humans possess a curious relationship with the unknown. We fear it. We pursue it. Sometimes we do both simultaneously. The first great migrations reflected that paradox beautifully. People left familiar places because circumstances demanded change. Yet many also displayed remarkable curiosity about what existed beyond visible boundaries. The horizon became an invitation, and humanity accepted. As darkness settles across the land, stars emerge one by one above the vast world. Cool air drifts across the grasslands. The smell of distant rain lingers on the wind. You gather with companions beneath the night sky. Another day has ended. Another small distance has been traveled. The path ahead remains uncertain. Yet humanity keeps moving forward, across rivers, across valleys, across generations, toward a future no one can yet imagine. Section 5. Ice, wind, and endurance. The landscape changes again. You wake beneath a sky that feels colder than before. Wind sweeps across open ground with a sharper edge. The scent of damp grass has faded, replaced by the clean, dry smell of air moving down from distant mountains. Something is happening to the world, slowly, relentlessly. Long before written history began, Earth experienced dramatic climate shifts. Temperatures rose and fell. Rainfall patterns changed. Ice expanded across vast regions before retreating again. These changes unfolded gradually enough that no individual witnessed the entire process, yet generation after generation felt the consequences. You stand on a hillside overlooking a broad valley. The morning sun glows pale through thin clouds. Frost clings to patches of vegetation. Nearby streams move quietly through the landscape, their surfaces reflecting the cold light. The air stings slightly. You pull closer to your companions. Warmth matters more now. For early humans, climate was never a distant scientific concept. It shaped daily existence. A change in rainfall could alter food supplies. A colder season could force migration. A prolonged drought might transform entire regions. Survival depended on adaptation. The environment never stopped changing. Neither could humanity. Modern scientists refer to this period as part of the Ice Age, though the phrase often creates confusion. Many people imagine a world entirely covered in snow and glaciers. The reality was more complex. Massive ice sheets dominated some regions, especially farther north. Yet many other areas remained grasslands, forests, and open plains. The planet contained a wide variety of environments. Still, the influence of ice was enormous. You feel it in the wind, you see it in the changing landscape, and you witness it in the behavior of animals. Large herds move seasonally across open terrain. Food sources shift. Water availability changes throughout the year. Human groups must remain flexible if they hope to survive. Flexibility becomes a superpower, not a dramatic one, a practical one. You walk through a landscape shaped by powerful natural forces. Cold air flows across rocky ground. The smell of pine and wet stone fills the atmosphere. Distant mountains appear blue beneath the morning sky. Every step reveals change. Every season teaches new lessons. One group learns where to find shelter during harsh winters. Another discovers migration routes, followed by game animals. Useful knowledge spreads through observation and memory. Knowledge becomes protection. Experience becomes treasure. As temperatures fluctuate, human populations face repeated challenges. Some groups disappear entirely. Others move into new regions. Those who adapt successfully pass their survival strategies to future generations. This process occurs again and again, across thousands of years. Across countless landscapes, historians often emphasize technological innovations, but adaptation itself may be humanity's greatest achievement. Tools matter, fire matters, cooperation matters, yet none of those advantages work without flexibility. The ability to adjust remains essential. By midday, clouds gather overhead. Wind pushes across the valley with increasing strength. You smell moisture in the air before the first drops arrive. Rain begins softly, then steadily. The landscape darkens beneath the storm. Water runs through shallow channels, while leaves tremble beneath the falling rain. The sound fills the air, creating a constant rhythm that seems almost soothing. You seek shelter among rocky outcrops. Others do the same. Moments like this reveal another important truth. Human survival rarely depended upon strength alone. Observation planning and preparation often mattered far more. A strong individual caught unprepared could perish. A careful individual often endured. One fascinating detail from Ice Age archaeology involves clothing. Evidence suggests that humans gradually developed increasingly sophisticated methods of creating garments from animal hides and plant materials. Warm clothing changes possibilities. Regions once too cold become accessible. Journeys become more manageable. Winter becomes less threatening. Researchers continued debating exactly when tailored clothing first appeared. Organic materials rarely survive for hundreds of thousands of years, making direct evidence difficult to find. The clues remain incomplete. The questions remain active. Yet few scholars doubt the importance of clothing in expanding humanity's range. The rain eventually fades. Fresh scents rise from the landscape. Wet earth, damp vegetation, clean stone. The world feels renewed beneath the cooling afternoon air. You continue moving with the group. Ahead stretches unfamiliar territory. Behind lies a world already changing. Throughout the Ice Age, humanity encountered environments that demanded creativity. Open grasslands required different strategies than forests. Mountain regions presented challenges, unlike river valleys. There was no universal solution. Success required adaptation, again and again. A curious archaeological mystery highlights this beautifully. Certain ancient sites reveal periods of occupation separated by long absences. Humans arrived left and later returned. Why? The reasons are not always clear. Some researchers suggest climate shifts altered local resources. Others point toward migration patterns or changing animal populations. The evidence allows multiple interpretations. History often whispers, rather than speak. As afternoon drifts toward evening, sunlight returns through gaps in the clouds. Golden rays illuminate distant hills, while cool air settles across the valley. The beauty feels striking, almost peaceful. Yet life remains difficult. Food must still be found. Shelter must still be secured. Predators still roam the landscape. Challenges never disappear. They simply change shape. You begin noticing how these pressures influence human behavior. People become skilled at reading environments. They recognize subtle signs in weather patterns. They remember seasonal changes. They anticipate future needs. Planning grows increasingly important. The future begins to matter, not merely the present moment. That shift carries profound consequences. A species capable of planning ahead gains powerful advantages. Preparation reduces risk. Stored knowledge improves decision-making. Long-term thinking becomes a survival tool. The seeds of civilization hide within such habits. Though civilization itself remains far away, as sunset approaches, the sky transforms into shades of amber and crimson. Wind softens across the valley. Birds settle into quiet evening routines. The group gathers near a sheltered area for the night. Familiar faces, familiar voices, a welcome comfort. The temperature drops quickly after dark. You feel the chill settling into the landscape. Nearby fires glow warmly against the gathering darkness. Above, stars emerge once more. They appear brighter in the cold air. The sky feels endless. You sit quietly, listening to crackling flames and distant animal calls. Around you are people who have survived changing climates, shifting environments, and countless uncertainties, not because conditions were easy, because adaptation became second nature. The Ice Age is not merely a story of cold weather. It is a story of resilience, of flexibility, of endurance. Humanity is learning how to survive in a world that refuses to remain the same. That lesson will prove useful, because the journey ahead contains many more changes yet to come. The fire burns steadily, the wind drifts softly through the night, and beneath the ancient stars, humanity continues learning how to endure. Section 6. Artists beneath stone ceilings. Morning arrives beneath a sky washed clean by cold winds. The air feels crisp and fresh. Mist lingers above valleys, while sunlight slowly spills across rocky hillsides. You hear birds calling from distant ledges. The smell of damp stone and wild grasses drifts gently through the cool morning atmosphere. The world remains challenging, yet something new is beginning to emerge. Not a new tool, not a new migration, something far more mysterious. You notice it first in quiet moments, a pattern scratched into soft earth, a shape traced with a finger, a collection of objects arranged carefully rather than randomly. Small clues, subtle hints. They suggest that humanity is beginning to think differently about the world. For hundreds of thousands of years, survival dominated daily life. Food, shelter, safety, and cooperation consumed attention. Those needs remain important, but now another impulse appears: the desire to create, the desire to express, the desire to leave a mark. You travel through rugged terrain, where limestone cliffs rise above open plains. Wind whistles softly between rock formations. The scent of moss and wet stone fills shaded areas beneath overhangs. Ahead, from the outside, it appears ordinary, dark, silent, ancient. Yet within places like this, humanity will produce some of its earliest known masterpieces. You step into the entrance. The temperature changes immediately. Cool air brushes against your skin. The smell of damp earth grows stronger. Sounds become muted. Water drips somewhere in the darkness with slow, steady rhythm. The cave feels alive, not with movement, with presence. Deep inside such places, prehistoric artists created images that continue to astonish modern observers. Animals appear across cave walls: horses, bison, mammoths, deer, predators moving through landscapes long vanished. The paintings possess remarkable skill, remarkable confidence, remarkable beauty, and they raise endless questions. Why were they created? No one knows for certain. That uncertainty fascinates historians. Some scholars believe the paintings held spiritual significance. Others suggest they played roles in storytelling, education, or social identity. Certain researchers propose multiple purposes depending on time and location. The evidence remains incomplete. The mystery endures. You imagine entering a cave illuminated only by flickering firelight. Shadows dance across stone walls. Pigments made from minerals and charcoal wait nearby. The scent of smoke drifts through the darkness. An artist begins working, carefully, patiently. Each line appears with intention. Each figure carries meaning. The result is more than decoration. It is communication. One of the most famous examples comes from Lascaux Cave, where stunning prehistoric paintings reveal extraordinary artistic ability. Although created much later than humanity's earliest origins, such sites offer remarkable glimpses into Ice Age imagination. Standing before these images today feels surprisingly emotional. The artists seem distant and familiar. Thousands of generations separate you from them, yet their desire to create feels recognizable, perhaps even universal. The cave grows quieter as you move deeper inside. The air smells of mineral-rich water. Your footsteps echo softly from ancient walls. Here, surrounded by darkness, humans begin expressing ideas that extend beyond immediate survival. That shift matters enormously. Art allows memory to persist. Art allows identity to flourish. Art allows people to communicate experiences that words alone may struggle to capture. The implications reach far into the future. Every painting, every carving, every symbol represents another step toward complex culture. By midday, sunlight brightens the landscape outside the cave. Warmth returns to the open air. The smell of vegetation rises beneath the growing heat. You sit near a rocky shelter while observing daily activities around you. Life remains practical. Food must still be gathered. Tools must still be maintained. Children must still be protected. Yet artistic expression now exists alongside those necessities. The balance is fascinating. Human beings are becoming creatures of both survival and meaning. One curious archaeological discovery highlights this transformation beautifully. Ancient people occasionally collected unusual objects with no obvious practical purpose. Shells, colored stones, and decorative items appear in locations far from their natural sources. Why carry them? They offer no food. They provide no shelter. Yet they mattered enough to transport. Many researchers interpret such objects as evidence of symbolic thinking. People were assigning value beyond simple utility, a powerful development, a uniquely human one. Historians continued debating precisely when symbolic behavior became widespread. Some evidence suggests gradual development over long periods. Other findings hint at sudden bursts of creativity within certain populations. The timeline remains uncertain. The conversation continues. As afternoon progresses, clouds drift lazily across the sky. Wind moves through tall grasses. The landscape glows beneath gentle sunlight. You reflect upon the remarkable transformation unfolding around you. Early humans once focused almost entirely upon immediate survival. Now they are creating images, collecting meaningful objects, sharing stories. The world is becoming richer, not materially, mentally, emotionally, culturally. These developments strengthen communities in unexpected ways. Shared stories help preserve knowledge. Shared symbols reinforce identity. Shared artistic traditions connect generations. Culture is beginning to emerge, slowly, quietly, powerfully. A child watches an older artist work with pigments near a shelter wall. Careful observation becomes learning. Learning becomes tradition. Tradition becomes heritage. The process feels simple. Its consequences are enormous. Thousands of years later, descendants will paint cathedral ceilings, compose symphonies, write novels, and create films. Entire civilizations will define themselves through artistic achievements. The roots of those accomplishments extend back into moments like these: a hand pressed against stone, a figure painted on a wall, a story shared beside a fire. Evening approaches gradually. Golden sunlight washes across the landscape. Long shadows stretch beneath rocky cliffs. The smell of wood smoke drifts through the cooling air. People gather together once more. Voices rise softly. Children listen. Adults exchange experiences from the day's travels. Stories flow through the group. No written language exists yet memory remains powerful. Narratives help explain the world. They preserve important lessons. They strengthen social bonds. Perhaps somewhere nearby, someone describes an animal hunt through gestures and sound. Perhaps another recounts an unusual dream. Perhaps an artist explains the meaning behind a painted image. No record survives, only possibilities. Still, the evidence suggests something undeniable. Human imagination is expanding. As darkness settles over the land, stars appear above the ancient world. Fires glow warmly against the night. The scent of smoke mingles with cool evening air. You look upward, then toward the flickering firelight, then toward the cave beyond. Within those stone chambers, humanity has begun leaving traces of thought, creativity, and wonder. The artists cannot know it yet, but their work will outlast them by thousands of years. Long after their voices fade, long after their footprints disappear, their images will remain, silent, beautiful, enduring. And beneath the vast Ice Age sky, humanity takes another step toward becoming something far greater than a survivor alone. Section 7. Hunters of Mammoth Lands. The morning begins with movement. Cold air drifts across the plains. while pale sunlight spreads over endless grasslands. Frost sparkles briefly on low vegetation before slowly melting away. The smell of damp earth mixes with the scent of animal tracks carried on the wind. You wake among people who know this landscape intimately. Every hill matters. Every stream matters. Every season matters. Life here depends upon understanding the rhythms of the natural world. Far across the open plain, enormous shapes move through the morning mist. A herd, large, slow, powerful. These are some of the great animals of the Ice Age, creatures that dominate entire ecosystems. Mammoths roam across vast territories. Giant bison graze beneath open skies. Herds of reindeer travel immense distances, following seasonal patterns. For early humans, these animals represent opportunity and danger. You watch experienced hunters study the horizon. Their attention remains focused. Their movements are deliberate. Nothing appears rushed. Patience becomes essential. The hunt often begins long before anyone approaches an animal. Knowledge comes first. Hunters observe migration routes. They remember watering locations. They recognize seasonal behavior. Information gathered over months may determine success during a single day. The process feels almost scientific. Observation, memory, prediction, action. You follow the group across rolling terrain, where cold winds sweep through tall grasses. The smell of crushed plants rises beneath your feet. Clouds drift overhead, casting moving shadows across the landscape. Every member contributes something. Some individuals track footprints, others monitor. To weather conditions, others help coordinate movement. The image of a lone heroic hunter rarely matches reality. Survival depends upon cooperation. Again and again, humanity returns to the same lesson. Working together works better. Modern archaeology supports this view. Evidence from numerous prehistoric sites suggests coordinated hunting strategies involving multiple participants. Large animals often required planning and teamwork rather than individual strength. Strength helps, strategy helps more. One fascinating example comes from discoveries associated with mammoth hunting sites throughout Eurasia. Researchers have uncovered evidence suggesting that some communities carefully selected locations where terrain could improve hunting success. Landscape became a tool. The environment itself became part of the plan. Historians continue debating exactly how these hunts unfolded. Some scholars argue for highly organized strategies. Others suggest more opportunistic approaches. The truth likely varied. Human behavior usually does. As the morning progresses, you notice how carefully hunters read the world around them. Tracks pressed into soft ground reveal movement patterns. Broken vegetation suggests recent activity. Wind direction influences every decision. Nothing is ignored. Every clue matters. The smell of animals grows stronger as you move closer to grazing areas. Earth churned by heavy footsteps creates visible pathways through the grass. Birds circle overhead, occasionally revealing activity below. You begin understanding something important. These hunters possess extraordinary expertise. Not written expertise, lived expertise. Their knowledge comes from experience accumulated across generations. A young hunter learns from an older one. That hunter teaches another. The chain continues. Knowledge becomes inheritance. No books required. By midday, the sun climbs higher into the sky. The air warms slightly, though cool winds remain constant across the plains. The smell of grass and soil fills the atmosphere. The group pauses briefly. Water is shared. Observations are exchanged. Plans are adjusted. Flexibility remains crucial. Animals do not always behave as expected. Weather changes unexpectedly. Circumstances evolve. The ability to adapt often separates success from failure. One quirky detail from Ice Age archaeology reveals just how resourceful these communities could be. In some regions, mammoth bones were used as construction materials for shelters. Large curved tusks and sturdy bones helped create structures in environments where wood was scarce. Imagine building part of your home from the remains of creatures larger than modern elephants. Practical, ingenious, a little intimidating, As the afternoon unfolds, clouds gather across the horizon. Wind carries the smell of distant snow from higher elevations. The landscape feels enormous beneath the open sky. You watch hunters communicate through gestures and subtle signals. Loud voices would serve little purpose here. Quiet coordination proves more effective. This raises another fascinating question. How advanced was language at this stage? Researchers continue exploring the answer. Most scholars agree that increasingly sophisticated communication played an important role in human success. However, determining exactly when modern language emerged remained difficult. Words leave few fossils. The evidence must be inferred indirectly. Some scientists argue for surprisingly early origins. Others favor later developments. The debate remains active, yet whatever form communication takes, it clearly supports cooperation. Shared information allows groups to respond more effectively to challenges, and challenges remain abundant. The hunt continues through changing terrain. Grasslands give way to scattered woodlands. Small streams cut through shallow valleys. Animal tracks crisscross muddy ground near water sources. The world feels alive. Everywhere you look, movement occurs. Birds rise from reeds. Small mammals dart through brush. Large herds graze in the distance. Humans occupy only one part of a vast ecosystem. An important part, but only one. As evening approaches, golden sunlight spreads across the landscape. Shadows lengthen dramatically. Temperatures begin falling once again. The day's efforts gradually come to an end. Some hunts succeed, others do not. Such uncertainty remains normal. No community succeeds every day. Resilience matters more than perfection. This lesson appears repeatedly throughout human history. The ability to recover often proves more valuable than the ability to avoid failure entirely. You return with the group toward a familiar gathering place. Smoke rises from distant fires. The smell of cooking food drifts through the cooling air. Relief spreads quietly. Another day completed. Another day survived. People gather together as darkness approaches. Familiar voices fill the evening atmosphere. Children listen to stories. Adults exchange observations gathered during the day's travels. Knowledge flows continuously, not through documents, through conversation, through memory, through experience. Nearby skilled artisans repair tools damaged during recent use. Stone edges are sharpened carefully. Wooden shafts are inspected. Small improvements increase future effectiveness. Innovation never stops, even when it appears simple. The sky darkens gradually above the plains. Stars emerge one by one across the immense night sky. Cool air settles over the landscape while fires provide warmth and light. You sit quietly beside the gathering. The smell of smoke lingers pleasantly in the air. Crackling flames illuminate nearby faces. Beyond the circle of light stretches the vast Ice Age world, a world of mammoths and migrations, a world of uncertainty and opportunity, a world where humanity continues learning, not merely how to survive, but how to thrive. The hunters of these great lands possess no cities, no written records, and no permanent monuments. Yet they carry something equally important: knowledge, skill, cooperation, adaptability. These qualities will travel forward through countless generations, long after the mammoths disappear, long after the Ice Age ends, and beneath the endless stars, humanity takes another quiet step toward its remarkable future. Section 8. Seeds of a New World. The seasons are changing once again. You wake to a world that feels subtly different from the one your distant ancestors knew. The morning air remains cool, but the great glaciers that once dominated vast portions of the planet are beginning their long retreat. Across many regions, temperatures gradually rise. Rainfall patterns shift. New plants spread into landscapes that were once too cold to support them. The transformation is slow, almost invisible, yet its consequences will reshape human history. A soft breeze moves through the grasslands. Birds call from nearby trees. The scent of damp soil rises from the ground after recent rain. Small streams sparkle beneath the growing sunlight. The world is becoming greener, more predictable in some places, more inviting. For countless generations, human communities have followed food wherever it appeared. Movement has remained essential. Seasonal migrations shaped life itself. But now in certain regions, a remarkable possibility begins to emerge. What if food could be encouraged to grow nearby? Not everywhere, not immediately. Just a small experiment, a simple observation. A seed dropped near a campsite, a patch of plants returning year after year. At first, nobody imagines a revolution. The change begins quietly. You travel beside a river, valley where wild grasses grow in abundance. Their seed heads sway gently in the wind. The smell of vegetation fills the air. Insects hum among the plants while birds search for food nearby. People notice patterns. Certain areas consistently produce useful plants. Certain seeds can be gathered and stored. Certain locations remain productive over long periods. Observation becomes opportunity. Opportunity becomes experimentation. Historians generally believe agriculture developed independently in several parts of the world, rather than emerging from a single source. Different communities discovered different methods at different times. The process was gradual, extremely gradual. No one wakes up and invents farming in a single afternoon. Instead, generations contribute small pieces to a much larger puzzle. You kneel beside a patch of wild grain. The stalks feel rough against your hands. The scent is earthy and fresh. Nearby, others gather seeds using simple tools and woven containers. Something interesting happens. People begin paying closer attention to plant life cycles. When do seeds appear? When should they be collected? What happens if some remain in the ground? Questions lead to discoveries. Discoveries lead to new possibilities. The relationship between humans and plants begins changing. Not dramatically, yet. One fascinating detail often surprises modern audiences. Early agriculture may not have immediately improved quality of life. Some archaeological evidence suggests that early farmers worked harder and consumed less varied diets than many hunter-gatherers. Progress is rarely straightforward. History enjoys complications. Many scholars believe communities adopted agriculture because it supported larger populations, not necessarily because it made life easier for every individual. The distinction matters. As the morning continues, you walk through fertile terrain, rich with vegetation. The smell of fresh growth fills the air. Water flows steadily through nearby channels. The environment feels generous. For now, nature still remains unpredictable. Floods occur, droughts occur, storms arrive without warning. Yet some communities begin learning how to influence outcomes. A little, just enough to matter. You notice people returning repeatedly to familiar locations. Camps last longer than they once did. Temporary shelters become more substantial. Storage becomes increasingly important. The future begins occupying people's thoughts. A profound shift. For much of human history, survival focused heavily on the present. Agriculture encourages planning months ahead. Seeds planted now, harvest later. Preparation today, reward tomorrow. The ability to think long-term becomes increasingly valuable. By midday, sunlight brightens the valley. Warm air carries the scent of grasses and flowering plants. Birds dart between shrubs, while insects buzz lazily through the heat. You rest near a gathering place where food resources are being processed and stored. Baskets hold collected seeds. Stone tools assist with grinding and preparation. The scene feels ordinary, yet it represents one of humanity's most important transitions. People are beginning to shape ecosystems intentionally. The implications are enormous. One curious archaeological mystery involves the exact motivations behind early cultivation. Historians still debate whether population pressure, climate change's social competition, or cultural preferences played the largest role. Perhaps several factors work together. Human decisions rarely have a single cause. The uncertainty remains part of the story. Afternoon shadows begin stretching across the valley. The sound of flowing water creates a calming background rhythm. Wind moves softly through fields of wild grain. You observe children learning from older generations. Knowledge passes through demonstration and practice. Which plants are useful? Which are dangerous? Which seeds should be saved? The process feels familiar. Humanity continues building knowledge collectively. Each generation contributes. Each generation inherits. Agriculture accelerates this pattern. Stored food supports larger communities. Larger communities allow greater specialization. New ideas spread more easily when people remain in closer contact. Small changes create larger changes. The chain reaction has begun. A few seeds planted today may eventually support villages. Villages may become towns. Towns may become cities. Nobody can see that future yet. The first farmers are solving immediate problems, not predicting civilizations. Yet history often grows from unintended consequences. As evening approaches, golden light spreads across the landscape. The river reflects the colors of sunset. The smell of cooking food drifts through the air. People gather together near their shelters. Conversations flow. Plans are discussed. Future harvests are considered. That last detail feels new. The future itself is becoming a shared project, a powerful idea. The earliest communities experimenting with cultivation are not abandoning old ways completely. Hunting continues. Gathering continues. Flexibility remains important. The transition unfolds gradually. For generations, people combine old knowledge with new possibilities, a foot in both worlds, the hunter's world, the farmer's world. Above, the sky darkens into deep shades of blue. Stars begin appearing one by one. Cool evening air settles across the valley. You sit beside a small fire, while the sounds of the river continue nearby. The scent of smoke mingles with fresh vegetation. Familiar faces glow softly in the firelight. Around you, humanity is changing, not through conquest, not through sudden invention, through observation, patience, experimentation. A seed planted in fertile ground, a lesson passed to a child, a community choosing to stay a little longer than before. The transformation remains fragile. It remains incomplete, yet it is underway. The long age of wandering is beginning to share space with something new. Roots, fields, settlements, possibilities. And beneath the quiet stars of a warming world, humanity plants the first seeds of an entirely different future. Section 9. Villages beside fertile waters. The river greets you before sunrise. You hear it long before you see it. Water moves steadily through the darkness, flowing over stones polished by countless seasons. Cool air drifts across the valley, carrying the scent of wet soil, fresh reeds, and growing vegetation. Something feels different now. The landscape no longer serves merely as a place to pass through. It is becoming a place to remain. As dawn spreads across the horizon, golden light reveals a settlement beside the water. Small structures stand near one another. Footpaths connect gathering places. Storage areas contain precious supplies collected through months of effort. For the first time in human history, increasing numbers of people are choosing to stay. Not forever, at least not yet, but longer than previous generations could have imagined. The change seems simple. Its consequences are enormous. You walk through the settlement as morning activity begins. Smoke rises from cooking fires. Children play near shelters while adults prepare for the day's work. The smell of grain, wood smoke, and damp earth fills the air. Life feels different here, more predictable, more organized, more connected. Agriculture has started transforming human existence. Stored food allows communities to survive periods when fresh resources become scarce. Larger populations become possible. Skills begin diversifying. Not everyone must spend every hour searching for food. That changes everything. A community with reliable food supplies gains new opportunities. Some individuals focus on crafting tools. Others build structures. Others specialize in storing, processing, or managing resources. Complexity begins growing, slowly, steadily. You follow a path leading toward cultivated fields near the river. Morning sunlight glows across rows of growing plants. The scent of fresh vegetation rises from the fertile ground. People work carefully, methodically. They understand that future harvests depend upon present effort. This long-term thinking represents one of the great transformations of human history. Planting requires patience. Waiting requires trust. Harvesting rewards preparation. The relationship between humans and time itself is changing. Historians often point to places like Fertile Crescent as important centers of early agriculture, though farming emerged independently in several regions around the world. Different communities discovered their own solutions to similar challenges. Human creativity was widespread. Innovation was not limited to one location. As the morning progresses, the settlement becomes busier. Voices carry through the air. Animals move between structures. The smell of baking food drifts from communal areas. You notice something else. Property, not in the modern sense, but in an emerging sense. Stored food belongs to specific families or groups. Fields require protection and maintenance. Resources gain increasing importance. With ownership comes responsibility and occasionally conflict. One of history's recurring patterns begins appearing here. When people invest significant effort into producing resources, questions arise about who controls them. The answers vary. The questions persist. Archaeologists continue studying how early villages organize themselves. Some settlements appear relatively equal. Others show evidence of growing social differences. The picture remains incomplete. Human societies rarely follow a single path. By midday, the sun shines brightly above the valley. Warm air carries the scent of grain fields and river water. Birds circle overhead, while insects hum among the crops. You rest beneath a shaded structure and observe daily life unfolding around you. The settlement feels vibrant, purposeful, alive. Children learn practical skills from parents and grandparents. Knowledge flows continuously through the community. Farming techniques, construction methods, seasonal patterns, and survival strategies pass from one generation to the next. Education exists everywhere. Even without schools, the village itself becomes a classroom. One fascinating detail from archaeology reveals how creative early villagers could be. Some settlements developed surprisingly advanced storage systems to protect food from moisture pests and spoilage. Food storage may sound mundane. It was revolutionary. A successful harvest becomes far more valuable when it can survive through difficult seasons. Preparation creates security. Security creates opportunity. Opportunity creates change. The chain continues. As afternoon unfolds, clouds drift lazily across the sky. The river glitters beneath shifting sunlight. Cool breezes occasionally sweep through the valley, offering relief from the heat. You walk toward the edge of the settlement and look back. The sight feels remarkable, not because the structures are large. They are not. Not because the technology is advanced. It is not. The significance lies elsewhere. People have created a lasting community, a place with memory, a place with continuity, a place where children may grow up in the same location as their parents. For most of human history before this moment, such stability remained uncommon. Now it becomes increasingly possible. A quirky mystery continues to intrigue researchers. Certain early settlements contain communal structures whose exact purpose remains uncertain. Some may have served ceremonial roles. Others may have functioned as gathering spaces or storage facilities. Historians still debate their use. The buildings remain. Their stories do not. Such mysteries remind us how much of ancient life remains hidden from view. As evening approaches, activity shifts throughout the village. Workers return from fields. Food is prepared. Conversations fill communal spaces. The smell of cooking grains mixes with wood smoke. Laughter drifts through the cooling air. Dogs move between groups of people already becoming familiar companions in many communities. The atmosphere feels comfortable, almost familiar. Human social life is becoming richer and more layered. Permanent settlements encourage stronger relationships beyond immediate family groups. Shared projects unite larger populations. Communities develop identities. Traditions emerge. Customs form. The roots of culture grow deeper. You sit near a fire as twilight settles over the valley. The river continues its steady journey through the darkness. Above, stars appear one by one across the sky. Nearby, people discuss future harvests, future construction, future plans. The future itself occupies more attention than ever before. That may be the greatest change of all. Agriculture allows communities to imagine tomorrow differently, not merely as something to survive, as something to shape. The first villages remain modest by modern standards. They contain no towering monuments, no vast palaces, no crowded marketplaces. Those developments lie ahead. Yet the foundation is already here. People working together, people staying together, people investing in a shared future. The transformation began with seeds. Now it spreads through entire communities. As firelight flickers across familiar faces, you realize that humanity has crossed another threshold. The wanderers are not gone on to. Many still travel. Many always will. But beside rivers and fertile valleys, something new has appeared. Villages, homes, belonging. And beneath the peaceful night sky, the first permanent communities prepare the way for the cities yet to come. Section 10. The rise of early cities. The village has grown. What once felt spacious now feels crowded. New homes stand beside older ones. Paths have widened from constant use. Storage buildings hold larger reserves of food. The sounds of daily life begin before sunrise and continue long after sunset. You wake to a chorus of activity. Voices echo through the settlement. Animals stir nearby. Cooking fires release thin streams of smoke into the cool morning air. The scent of grain clay wood smoke and river water drifts across the awakening community. Humanity is entering a new age, the age of cities. The transition does not happen suddenly. No village falls asleep one evening and awakens as a city the next morning. Growth takes time. Generations pass. Populations increase. Trade expands. Opportunities multiply. Eventually, some settlements become something entirely new. You walk through one of these growing centers beside a broad river. People move in every direction carrying baskets, tools, pottery, and food supplies. Conversations overlap in a constant hum. Children run through narrow lanes, while craftsmen begin their work. The atmosphere feels energetic, busy, alive. For the first time, many people regularly interact with strangers. In smaller villages, nearly everyone knows everyone else. In larger settlements, that becomes impossible. Communities expand beyond the limits of personal familiarity. Society grows more complex. New systems become necessary. Someone must organize resources. Someone must coordinate construction. Someone must settle disputes. The challenges of success create new responsibilities. You continue walking toward a central gathering area. The ground beneath your feet feels hard from years of use. The smell of fresh bread and cooking grains fills the air. Nearby merchants exchange goods collected from distant regions. This development changes everything. Trade. For thousands of years, human communities relied heavily upon local resources. Now, increasing numbers of settlements exchange materials across significant distances. Stone from one region, clay from another, rare minerals from far away. Ideas travel too, sometimes faster than goods. A technique discovered in one community may eventually appear hundreds of miles away. Innovation begins spreading through growing networks of contact. Humanity becomes more connected. One fascinating example comes from early urban centers in ancient Mesopotamia. Communities near the great rivers developed extensive trade networks that linked distant populations. Goods moved between settlements long before modern transportation existed. The achievement is remarkable, especially considering the available technology. As morning advances, sunlight brightens the city. The river sparkles nearby. Boats move steadily along the water carrying supplies and passengers. You notice specialized workers throughout the settlement. Potters shape clay vessels. Builders repair structures. Craftsmen create tools. Farmers deliver food from surrounding fields. Not everyone performs the same tasks anymore. Specialization is expanding. This creates efficiency. It also creates interdependence. A potter depends upon farmers. Farmers depend upon tool makers. Tool makers depend upon traders. Everyone becomes part of a larger system. The city functions because people cooperate on a scale never before attempted. By midday, the marketplace becomes increasingly crowded. The smell of spices, food, livestock, and fresh materials fills the warm air. Voices rise and fall in countless conversations. You pause to observe. The scene feels surprisingly modern in some ways. People negotiate. People compare products. People exchange information. People discuss opportunities. Human behavior remains familiar across enormous spans of time. A merchant hopes for success. A family seeks security. A craftsman takes pride in skilled work. Some things change very little. Historians often emphasize economic factors when discussing early cities. But social changes may have been equally important. Larger populations encourage new forms of cooperation. They also introduce new challenges. Crowding creates problems. Resources require management. Rules become increasingly necessary. One scholarly debate focuses on exactly why the first cities emerged. Some researchers emphasize agricultural surplus. Others highlight religious centers. Trade networks, environmental factors, or political organization. No single explanation satisfies everyone. The origins of cities remain a rich field of study. Human history rarely offers simple answers. As afternoon unfolds, you walk through districts filled with workshops and communal spaces. The sounds of hammering, shaping, grinding, and construction blend into a constant background rhythm. The city never seems completely quiet. Something is always happening. This constant activity creates opportunities unavailable in smaller settlements. People encounter unfamiliar ideas. Skills improve through observation. Innovation accelerates. Creativity thrives where people gather. A quirky detail from archaeology illustrates this beautifully. Some ancient cities developed surprisingly sophisticated drainage systems and infrastructure long before modern engineering existed. The solutions were practical, sometimes ingenious, occasionally mysterious. Researchers still debate how certain construction projects were organized and managed. The evidence provides clues. The full story remains elusive. Later in the afternoon, shadows begin stretching across streets and courtyards. Warm sunlight reflects from mud brick walls. The smell of cooking fires gradually returns as evening preparations begin. You climb a slight rise overlooking the settlement. From here, the scale becomes clearer. Hundreds, perhaps thousands, people living together, working together, depending upon one another. The sight would have seemed extraordinary to distant ancestors who once traveled in small bands across open landscapes. Humanity has come far, yet many challenges remain. Larger populations increase the risk of disease. Competition for resources can create tension. Leadership becomes increasingly important. Success brings complexity. Complexity brings new problems. The pattern will repeat throughout history. As twilight approaches, the city glows beneath fading sunlight. Smoke rises gently into the evening sky. The river reflects shades of gold and crimson. Families gather near homes. Merchants finish transactions. Workers return from their daily tasks. The energy of the day softens into something calmer. You sit beside a communal fire while conversations drift through the cooling air. The smell of food mixes with wood smoke. Familiar voices create a comforting atmosphere. Nearby elders share stories. Children listen carefully. Knowledge continues moving from generation to generation. Even as cities grow larger, the human need for connection remains unchanged. The stars emerge overhead. The river continues flowing through the darkness. Around you stands one of humanity's greatest inventions. Not a tool, not a machine, a city, a place where thousands of lives intertwine, a place where ideas meet, a place where innovation, cooperation, ambition, and imagination gather together. The first cities are still young. Their streets remain humble. Their buildings remain modest. Yet within them lies the foundation for kingdoms, empires, and civilizations yet to come. And beneath the quiet evening sky, humanity takes another remarkable step forward. Section 11. Writing against time. The city awakens before the sun. You hear footsteps outside long before daylight reaches the streets. Workers move through narrow lanes carrying baskets and tools. Merchants prepare goods for trade. Bakers tend early fires, whose warm scent drifts through the cool morning air. Life has become organized, busy, complicated, and complexity creates a new challenge. How do you remember everything? For countless generations, memory has served humanity well. Stories, skills, traditions, and survival knowledge pass from one person to another through speech and observation. But cities are changing the scale of life. A small village can rely on memory. A growing city cannot always do the same. The need to track harvests, trade goods, labor taxes, and agreements becomes increasingly difficult. Information accumulates faster than any single person can remember. Humanity needs a new tool, a powerful one. You walk toward a busy administrative area near the center of the settlement. The morning air smells of clay grain and smoke. Sunlight begins illuminating the tops of buildings, while shadows still linger below. Inside a modest structure, several individuals sit carefully working with soft clay. Their actions appear simple. Their achievement is revolutionary. Marks are being made, not decorative marks, not artistic images. Information, recorded, preserved. Writing is beginning to emerge. Few inventions have transformed human history more profoundly. At first, the earliest writing systems are practical. They help track resources, record transactions, and manage increasingly complex societies. Nobody starts by writing epic novels. The first concern is often accounting. History occasionally has a sense of humor. One of humanity's greatest intellectual breakthroughs may have begun with bookkeeping. You watch as symbols are pressed into clay using carefully shaped tools. Each mark carries meaning. Each arrangement communicates information. For the first time, knowledge can exist independently of memory. The implications are staggering. A message can survive after its author departs. A record can outlast the person who created it. Information gains permanence. Historians often point to Sumer as one of the earliest regions where writing developed. Systems evolved gradually as communities sought better ways to manage increasingly sophisticated economies and administrations. The process took centuries, perhaps longer. Innovation rarely arrives fully formed. Writing grows through experimentation, modification, improvement. As the morning progresses, you observe how valuable these records become. Traders verify agreements. Administrators track supplies. Leaders monitor resources flowing through the city. Information becomes power. Accurate information becomes even more valuable. The city itself feels different now, not physically, conceptually. Knowledge is no longer limited by individual memory. That limitation has shaped human existence for countless generations. Now it begins fading. You step into a marketplace alive with activity. The smell of fresh bred livestock, clay, and spices fills the warm air. Conversations echo from every direction. Trade continues expanding. Relationships become more complex. Cities grow larger. Writing helps manage it all, at least partially. One fascinating detail often surprises modern audiences. Early writing systems were incredibly difficult to learn. Becoming a skilled scribe required extensive training and practice. Not everyone could write. Far from it. Literacy remained rare in many early civilizations. Those who mastered writing often held respected positions within society. Their skills were valuable. Their knowledge was specialized. The written word carries prestige from the very beginning. By midday, sunlight floods the city. Warm air rises from stone and packed earth. The smell of cooking food drifts through streets crowded with daily activity. You seek shade beneath a covered courtyard. Nearby, a teacher guides students through symbols and markings. Their progress feels slow, frustrating at times. Learning always does. Yet each symbol mastered opens new possibilities. Writing allows laws to be recorded, history to be preserved, ideas to travel farther than ever before. The invention changes not only administration, but culture itself. A story told aloud may evolve with each retelling. A story written down gains stability, not perfection, but permanence. The distinction matters. Historians still debate exactly how quickly writing spread through ancient societies. Some regions adopted it rapidly. Others relied primarily on oral traditions for much longer periods. Different communities followed different paths. Human development rarely unfolds uniformly. A curious scholarly mystery involves certain undeciphered writing systems discovered throughout the ancient world. Researchers have spent decades attempting to understand some ancient scripts. A few remain unread, silent messages from distant civilizations, waiting patiently, perhaps forever. The mystery reminds us that history always contains unanswered questions. As afternoon advances, the city grows even busier. Traders arrive from surrounding settlements. Officials review records. Craftsmen complete orders destined for distant communities. Information flows continuously. Goods flow continuously. Ideas flow continuously. The city increasingly resembles a living organism. Every part influences every other part. Writing helps hold the system together. You walk beside a river, where boats unload cargo gathered from far beyond the horizon. The smell of water mingles with that of wood rope and freshly harvested grain. Nearby records are being created. What arrived? Who delivered it? Where it belongs? Simple information. Extraordinary consequences. The ability to preserve details accurately across time transforms administration, trade, and governance. It also transforms memory itself. For the first time, future generations may learn directly from people long gone. Not perfectly, but more directly than ever before. As evening approaches, golden light washes across the city. Shadows lengthen through streets and courtyards. The atmosphere gradually softens as daily work concludes. You sit near a fire while voices drift through the cooling air. The scent of smoke mixes with fresh bread and evening meals. Above, stars begin appearing. Much remains unchanged. People still gather together. Stories still matter. Relationships still shape daily life. Yet something fundamental is different now. Humanity has found a way to speak across time. A merchant records a transaction. A leader records a decree. A scribe records an event. Generations later, someone may still read those words. The distance between past and future narrows. Knowledge becomes cumulative. Each generation no longer starts entirely from the beginning. That may be writing's greatest gift. Not merely preserving information, allowing information to build. The first written symbols are modest, simple, practical, yet from them will eventually emerge literature, science, philosophy, history, poetry, and law. Libraries will rise. Books will appear. Civilizations will preserve their stories. The journey begins here, a mark pressed into clay, a symbol carrying meaning, a thought surviving beyond a single lifetime. As darkness settles over the city and stars fill the sky, humanity takes another extraordinary step forward. The spoken word remains powerful. Now it has found a companion, and the future will never be quite the same again. Section 12. Kingdoms, temples, and power. The city rises from the morning mist like a dream becoming real. You stand on a hill overlooking streets, workshops, homes, and marketplaces that stretch farther than anything your distant ancestors could have imagined. Smoke curls upward from hundreds of fires. Sunlight glimmers across rooftops. The smell of baking bread, river water, and damp clay drifts through the cool air. Humanity has accomplished something remarkable. Yet another transformation is underway. As settlements grow larger and populations increase, new questions emerge. Who makes decisions? Who organizes labor? Who settles disputes? Who speaks for thousands of people at once? The answers begin shaping the first great kingdoms. You descend into the city as daily activity unfolds around you. Workers carry supplies through busy streets. Merchants prepare goods for trade. Farmers arrive from surrounding fields with carts loaded with harvests. Everything feels connected. Everything feels coordinated. That coordination requires leadership. At first, leadership often emerges through practical necessity. Communities need individuals who can organize irrigation systems, manage food supplies, oversee construction projects, and maintain order. Simple responsibilities. Complicated consequences. Over time, some leaders accumulate influence far beyond their original roles. Authority grows. Institutions develop. Power becomes increasingly organized. You walk toward a towering structure visible from nearly every part of the city. It dominates the skyline, not because it is practical, because it is symbolic. Temples are rising across the ancient world. These monumental buildings reflect something deeply human. People seek meaning beyond daily survival. They search for explanations regarding nature life, death seasons, and the mysteries surrounding existence itself. Religion becomes a powerful force, not merely spiritual, social, political, cultural. The temple before you smells faintly of incense and fresh-cut stone. Workers continue adding new sections, while priests, officials, and visitors move through its shadow. The structure serves many purposes: a place of worship, a center of community life, a symbol of collective identity, sometimes even an administrative hub. The boundaries between religion and governance often remain blurred. Modern categories do not always apply neatly to ancient societies. Historians frequently point to civilizations such as ancient Egypt and Sumer, where monumental architecture reflected both religious beliefs and political authority. The buildings were impressive. The messages were unmistakable. Power had become visible. As the morning progresses, you watch hundreds of workers collaborating on a construction project. Stone blocks are transported carefully. Measurements are checked repeatedly. Supplies arrive from multiple directions. The scale feels astonishing. No single person could accomplish this alone. Large projects require organization. Organization requires leadership. Leadership creates hierarchy. The pattern repeats throughout history. One fascinating detail often surprises modern observers. Many monumental structures were not built exclusively by enslaved labor, as popular imagination sometimes assumes. Archaeological evidence from several ancient societies suggests that skilled workers, seasonal laborers, and organized communities contributed significantly to major projects. The reality is often more complex. History usually is. By midday, sunlight floods the city. Warm air rises from stone walls and crowded streets. The smell of food, livestock, and river water fills the atmosphere. You seek shade beneath a covered walkway while observing life around you. The city now contains people performing highly specialized roles. Administrators manage records. Priests oversee ceremonies. Craftsmen develop advanced skills. Soldiers protect territory and maintain order. Society is becoming layered, more structured, more interconnected. Along with these developments comes another important change: laws. As populations expand, shared rules become increasingly necessary. Informal customs may work well in small villages. Large cities require greater consistency. People want predictability. People want fairness, or at least their version of fairness. Written laws begin appearing in some societies, helping establish expectations and responsibilities. Not everyone agrees with every rule. The tradition also begins early. A quirky scholarly debate involves the precise relationship between religious authority and political authority in ancient kingdoms. In some societies, rulers presented themselves as divine. In others, they claimed support from powerful gods while remaining mortal. The distinctions matter, yet the boundaries often remain difficult to define. Ancient people did not always separate sacred and secular life the way modern societies sometimes do. The afternoon passes beneath clear skies. The city hums with activity. Markets remain crowded. Workshops remain busy. Construction continues across expanding districts. You climb the steps of a large public structure and look out across the urban landscape. The view is extraordinary. Thousands of people, thousands of stories, thousands of ambitions, all connected through shared institutions. This represents one of civilization's greatest achievements: the ability to coordinate large populations toward common goals. The results can be inspiring, dobring. they can also be dangerous. Power allows remarkable accomplishments. Power can also be abused. Human history contains both possibilities. The first kingdoms begin teaching this lesson. As evening approaches, golden sunlight washes across temple walls and city streets. Long shadows stretch toward the river. The smell of cooking meals drifts through the cooling air. Families gather together. Workers return home. Ceremonies begin within sacred spaces. The city transitions from work to reflection. You sit near a public square where people exchange stories about the day. Children play nearby. Musicians perform simple melodies. Conversations flow through the evening atmosphere. The scene feels familiar, even across thousands of years. Humans remain social creatures. No monument changes that. No kingdom changes that. No ruler changes that. Yet the scale of society has transformed dramatically. A person now belongs not only to a family or village, they belong to something larger, a city, a kingdom, a civilization. Above the first stars appear in the darkening sky. Fires glow throughout the city like scattered constellations reflected upon the earth. The temple still dominates the skyline. The palace still commands attention. Together they symbolize a new stage in humanity's journey. Belief and power, faith and authority, community and hierarchy, all woven together into increasingly sophisticated societies. The kingdoms of the ancient world remain young. Many will rise. Many will fall. Their monuments may crumble. Their rulers may be forgotten. Yet their influence will endure. They have demonstrated that humans can organize on an unprecedented scale. They can build beyond an individual lifetimes. They can create institutions that outlive and beneath the stars, surrounded by temples and towers, humanity takes another remarkable step toward the complex civilizations of the future. Section 13. Roads linking distant worlds. The road stretches toward the horizon. Morning sunlight glows across packed earth worn smooth by countless travelers. Dust rises beneath footsteps and wagon wheels. A cool breeze carries the scent of dry grass, distant fires, and unfamiliar places waiting beyond the next hill. You stand at a crossroads, not merely a physical one, a historical one. For much of humanity's story, communities remained relatively isolated. Villages knew nearby villages. Cities traded with neighboring regions. Information traveled slowly. Now the connections are growing. Roads are spreading. Trade networks are expanding. The world feels larger than ever before, and smaller. You begin walking alongside merchants heading toward a distant city. Their animals carry textiles, tools, pottery, spices, and materials gathered from regions separated by hundreds of miles. Each item tells a story. Each journey creates new connections. The road itself seems alive. Travelers move in both directions. Some seek opportunity. Some carry messages. Others transport goods whose origins they may never personally visit. Movement has become organized, regular, expected. The smell of leather dust and packed supplies fills the air. Birds circle overhead, while distant hills shimmer beneath the morning sun. Humanity is building networks, and networks change everything. Everything. As civilizations grow, no city can produce everything it needs. Certain regions possess valuable metals. Others produce abundant grain. Some control access to rare resources desired across vast distances. Trade creates relationships. Relationships create dependence. Dependence creates opportunity. The pattern spreads across continents. Historians often point to routes such as the Silk Road as examples of how distant societies became connected through commerce. Despite its famous name, many goods traveled these routes besides silk. Ideas traveled too, sometimes more important than merchandise. You continue along the road, while the morning warms steadily. The scent of wildflowers occasionally mixes with dust carried by passing travelers. Conversations occur in multiple languages. Clothing styles vary noticeably from group to group. The diversity feels remarkable. People who might never have met in earlier centuries now encounter one another regularly. Cultures begin mixing. Customs spread. Technologies travel. The world grows more interconnected. A blacksmith in one region develops a useful technique. Eventually, someone else learns it. A merchant hears a story in one city. Later, that story appears hundreds of miles away. Ideas move surprisingly well when people move frequently. By midday, you arrive at a bustling caravan stop. Shade structures offer relief from the heat. Water is available for travelers and animals alike. The smell of food, livestock, and spices fills the air. You sit among merchants exchanging news, gathered from distant locations. This may be one of history's most underrated developments. Information networks. Long before newspapers or the internet, travelers carried knowledge between communities. Political events, market conditions, weather patterns, and cultural trends spread through conversation. The process was imperfect, sometimes inaccurate, often valuable. A merchant arriving from far away might provide the only news a community receives for weeks or months. Information becomes a commodity, almost as valuable as goods themselves. One fascinating detail from historical research involves the incredible distances some ancient traders traveled. Certain products found in archaeological sites originated thousands of miles from where they were eventually discovered. The journeys were extraordinary, especially considering the available transportation. Historians still debate exactly how some trade networks operated. Certain routes appear well documented. Others remain mysterious. Archaeological evidence reveals connections without always revealing the precise mechanisms behind them. The goods remain. The explanations sometimes do not. Afternoon sunlight stretches across open terrain as you continue traveling. The road winds through valleys, crosses rivers, and links settlements that would otherwise remain isolated. Every mile strengthens connections. Every connection creates possibilities. You begin noticing another consequence of expanding networks. Ideas become harder to contain. Religious beliefs spread beyond their places of origin. Artistic styles appear in distant regions. New technologies cross political boundaries. Innovation accelerates. No civilization develops entirely alone and influence flows in multiple directions. A city may export one idea while importing another. Cultural exchange becomes a constant process. The results are not always peaceful. Trade can encourage cooperation. It can also encourage competition. Access to valuable routes often becomes a source of tension. Powerful states seek control over strategic locations. Wealth attracts attention. The benefits of connection come with risks. This lesson will echo throughout history. As afternoon drifts toward evening, you arrive at a thriving city positioned along a major trade route. The marketplace overwhelms the senses immediately. Voices fill the air. Animals move through crowded streets. Merchants advertise their goods. The smell of spices, food, leather, incense, and fresh materials creates a constantly changing mixture. The city feels cosmopolitan. People from distant lands gather here. Different languages mingle. Different traditions coexist. Different ideas compete and collaborate. You watch a merchant examining goods produced in a region he has never personally visited. Nearby travelers discuss customs from cities separated by vast distances. The exchange of information feels almost as important as the exchange of products. A quirky historical mystery involves several ancient maps and geographical descriptions that appear surprisingly sophisticated for their time. Scholars continue debating how certain knowledge spread between distant cultures and whether some travelers journeyed farther than surviving records suggest. The questions remain open. History always leaves room for wonder. As sunset approaches, golden light washes across city walls and crowded streets. Long shadows stretch through marketplaces, gradually settling into evening rhythms. The day's trade begins winding down. Yet conversations continue. Stories continue. Ideas continue. You sit beside a communal fire near a traveler's lodging. The smell of smoke drifts upward into the cooling air. Nearby voices discuss politics, weather, religion, commerce, and distant lands. The world feels connected in a new way. Not fully connected, not yet, but increasingly so. A decision made in one kingdom may influence another. A discovery made in one city may eventually appear elsewhere. A traveler carrying knowledge can alter lives far beyond their homeland. The roads make it possible. Above stars emerge across the darkening sky. The same stars shine over countless cities, villages, and travelers scattered across continents. Yet those distant places no longer feel entirely separate. Roads link them, trade links them, ideas link them. Humanity has entered an age of connection. The roads stretching across the ancient world are more than paths through the landscape. They are pathways for culture, pathways for innovation, pathways for history itself. And beneath the stars, travelers continue moving forward, carrying the world with them wherever they go. Section 14. Thinkers under open skies. The road eventually leads somewhere unexpected, not merely to another city, not merely to another kingdom. It leads to questions. You arrive at a bustling center of learning, where merchants, travelers, officials, and scholars gather beneath the same sky. Morning sunlight reflects from stone buildings. The scent of parchment oil lamps, fresh bread, and sea air drifts through the streets. The atmosphere feels different here, quieter in some places, more curious. People are still trading goods, but they are also trading ideas. And ideas can travel farther than any caravan. You walk through a courtyard shaded by trees. Small groups sit together in conversation. Some discuss mathematics. Others debate politics. Others examine the movements of stars visible during the previous night. Nobody seems entirely satisfied with easy answers. That itself is significant. For much of human history, survival demanded immediate attention. Food, shelter, security, and cooperation occupied most daily energy. Now some societies have developed enough stability to support a different pursuit. Thinking. Not practical thinking alone. Abstract thinking. The search for understanding becomes a goal in itself. You sit near a gathering of scholars, engaged in animated discussion. The smell of warm stone rises beneath the morning sun. Birds call from nearby rooftops while voices drift through the courtyard. One scholar points toward the sky. Another disagrees. A third offers an alternative explanation. The conversation continues. No one reaches immediate agreement, and that may be the most important part. Humanity is learning that questions themselves have value. Historians often associate this intellectual flowering with figures such as Socrates, Confucius, and many other thinkers across different civilizations who encouraged deeper reflection about human behavior, ethics, governance, and knowledge. Their cultures differed greatly, yet they shared something important: curiosity, a willingness to challenge assumptions, a desire to understand how the world works. As the morning progresses, you observe discussions ranging across countless subjects. What makes a good leader? How should communities organize themselves? Why do seasons change? What is justice? What is wisdom? The questions feel familiar. Many remain unanswered. Even today, some questions never grow old. You notice how carefully participants listen to one another. Disagreement does not always lead to hostility. Sometimes it leads to better ideas. Not always. Humans remain human. Still, the willingness to examine different viewpoints becomes increasingly valuable. Knowledge advances through conversation, through debate, through reflection. The smell of ink and parchment fills the air as scribes record observations and arguments. Written records allow ideas to survive beyond a single discussion. Thought itself gains permanence, a remarkable development. By midday, the city buzzes with activity. Merchants crowd the markets. Officials conduct business. Teachers guide students through lessons. The smell of food drifts through shaded streets. You enter a building dedicated to storing knowledge. Shelves hold scrolls and documents gathered from many places, Information that once vanished with each generation now accumulates. The site feels extraordinary. Humanity is beginning to build collective memory. One fascinating historical example is the Library of Alexandria, which later became one of the most famous centers of learning in the ancient world. Though many details remain debated, its reputation reflects humanity's growing desire to collect and preserve knowledge. The dream itself is powerful. Gather wisdom, protect it, share it. The task proves harder than it sounds. One scholarly uncertainty continues to intrigue historians. We still know surprisingly little about many ancient schools of thought because large portions of their writings disappeared over time. Ideas can survive centuries. They can also vanish completely. The surviving record is only part of the story. Countless voices have been lost, yet enough remains to reveal something remarkable. Across multiple civilizations, people begin asking similar questions. Different cultures, different languages, different traditions, similar curiosity. As afternoon unfolds, you join a group observing the sky from a high terrace. Warm sunlight reflects from stone surfaces. A gentle breeze carries the scent of the sea. Above, clouds drift slowly across the blue horizon. The scholars watch carefully. Patterns matter. Ancient observers track stars, planets, eclipses, and seasonal changes. Their methods vary, but their motivation remains familiar. They want explanations, not merely stories. Explanations. This distinction gradually reshapes human thought. A curious detail from ancient history illustrates the point beautifully. Some early astronomers achieved surprisingly accurate observations using tools that appear simple by modern standards. Patience helped. Careful record-keeping helped even more. Knowledge often advances through persistence rather than genius alone. The afternoon conversations continue. Questions lead to more questions. Answers inspire further investigation. The process never truly ends. And perhaps that is the lesson. Wisdom is not a destination. It is a practice. You begin noticing how intellectual life influences other parts of society. Philosophical ideas affect politics. Scientific observations improve navigation. Ethical discussions shape laws. Ideas rarely remain isolated. They spread. They interact. They transform institutions. The ripple effects can last centuries. As evening approaches, golden sunlight washes across rooftops and courtyards. Shadows lengthen. The city gradually shifts toward a calmer rhythm. Yet conversations continue. Some discussions seem endless. The participants probably consider that a compliment. You sit near a public gathering place where teachers, travelers, and students exchange stories and observations. The smell of evening meals drifts through the cooling air. Nearby fires begin illuminating the growing darkness. Above, the first stars appear, the same stars observed by hunters, farmers, merchants, and rulers throughout humanity's long journey. Now they are being studied systematically, questioned, measured, interpreted. The desire to understand grows stronger, not replacing older traditions, joining them. Humanity is becoming something new once again, not merely builders, not merely traders, not merely rulers, thinkers, observers, questioners. The path ahead remains uncertain. Many ideas will prove incorrect. Some theories will fail. Some questions will resist answers. That is perfectly normal. Knowledge advances imperfectly. The important thing is that the search continues. As darkness settles across the city, lamps glow warmly beside streets and courtyards. Voices soften, but do not disappear. Somewhere nearby, another question is being asked. Another assumption is being challenged. Another idea is being born. And beneath the ancient stars, humanity takes another step forward, not through conquest or construction, but through curiosity itself. Section 15. Empires of Extraordinary Scale. The world feels larger now. You stand on a hill overlooking a landscape connected by roads, rivers, ports, and cities. Morning sunlight spreads across distant fields and fortified walls. Smoke rises from settlements scattered across the horizon. The scent of damp earth horses and wood fires drifts through the cool air. Humanity has spent thousands of years building communities, Villages became cities. Cities became kingdoms. Now some kingdoms are becoming something even larger. Empires. The idea seems simple at first. One ruler, one government, many peoples. In practice, it becomes one of the most ambitious experiments in human history. You descend toward a bustling city that serves as part of a vast imperial network. The streets are crowded with merchants, officials, soldiers, craftsmen, and travelers. Languages mingle in the air. Clothing styles vary dramatically from person to person. The diversity is striking. People from distant regions now live under the same political system. The challenge of governing such complexity is enormous, yet some societies manage it surprisingly well, at least for a time. You walk through a grand avenue lined with public buildings. The smell of fresh bread mixes with the scent of stone, warmed by sunlight. Nearby, workers repair roads that connect this city to others, hundreds of miles away. Infrastructure becomes essential. An empire depends upon communication. An empire depends upon transportation. An empire depends upon administration. Without those foundations, size becomes a liability rather than an advantage. Historians often point to entities such as Roman Empire, Han Dynasty, and Achaemenid Empire as examples of large-scale political systems that connected vast territories and diverse populations. Each followed a different path. Each faced similar challenges. How do you unite people who speak different languages? How do you manage distant provinces? How do you maintain stability across enormous distances? The answers vary. The questions remain surprisingly familiar. As morning progresses, you observe officials reviewing records and messages arriving from faraway regions. Riders carry information along established routes. Ships transport supplies between ports. Administrators monitor resources flowing through the empire. The system feels impressive, almost overwhelming. No single person fully understands every part of it, yet somehow it functions, most days anyway. One fascinating aspect of empires is their ability to spread ideas alongside authority. Roads built for military purposes often support trade. Trade encourages cultural exchange. Cultural exchange accelerates innovation. Power creates connections. Connections create opportunities. The results are rarely predictable. You pause near a marketplace filled with goods from distant lands. The smell of spices, oils, textiles, and cooked food fills the air. Merchants advertise products originating hundreds or even thousands of miles away. The empire feels interconnected. Not perfectly, but significantly. A traveler can move farther than many ancestors ever imagined possible. By midday, sunlight reflects from public monuments and administrative buildings. Warm air rises from crowded streets. The city hums with activity. You enter a public gathering space where citizens discuss current events and local concerns. Some praise imperial policies. Others criticize them. That too feels familiar. Large political systems rarely satisfy everyone. A quirky historical detail illustrates the scale of imperial ambition. Some ancient rulers ordered roads, canals, or monuments so vast that generations continued maintaining them long after the original leaders disappeared. The projects outlived their creators. Human ambition often does. One scholarly uncertainty continues to spark debate among historians. Why do some empires endure for centuries, while others collapse relatively quickly? Many factors appear important. Economic strength, military organization, environmental conditions, leadership, luck. No single explanation fully accounts for every case. History resists simple formulas. As afternoon unfolds, you leave the crowded center and walk toward the city walls. Beyond them stretch farms, villages, and roads connecting this place to the wider imperial world. The scale becomes easier to appreciate from here. Thousands of communities, millions of lives, all linked through shared institutions. The achievement is extraordinary. Yet signs of strain are all present. Maintaining order requires resources. Maintaining infrastructure requires labor. Maintaining loyalty requires trust. Empires grow powerful. Powerful things become difficult to manage. The paradox appears repeatedly throughout history. Success creates new challenges. The larger the system becomes, the more vulnerable it may be to disruption. A poor harvest in one region, political conflict in another, economic difficulties elsewhere. Problems can spread through interconnected networks, just as benefits do. The strengths of empires often mirror their weaknesses. As the afternoon shadows lengthen, you pass soldiers stationed along a major roadway. Their presence reminds everyone that authority ultimately depends upon enforcement as well as cooperation. Empires rely on both. Too much force creates resentment. Too little creates instability. Finding balance proves difficult. Many rulers try. Few master it completely. The smell of dust rises from the road as travelers continue arriving from distant territories. Their accents differ. Their customs differ, yet they participate in a shared world shaped by imperial connections. Cultural exchange becomes unavoidable. Foods spread. Technologies spread. Religious ideas spread. Artistic styles spread. The empire acts as a bridge between regions that might otherwise remain isolated. This may be one of its greatest contributions. As evening approaches, golden sunlight bathes the city in warm colors. Public buildings glow softly against the darkening sky. The day's activity begins slowing. Merchants close stalls. Officials finish records. Travelers seek lodging. Families gather for evening meals. You sit near a public square while conversations drift through the cooling air. The smell of cooking food and wood smoke creates a comforting atmosphere. Above, stars begin appearing. The same stars shine over distant provinces connected by roads, trade routes, and shared institutions. The empire seems immense, perhaps permanent. Many people throughout history believed the same about their own age. Yet historians know something they do not. Every empire changes. Some fragment. Some transform. Some disappear entirely. Their roads remain. Their ideas remain. Their influence lingers. The structures of power may fade, but the connections they create often survive. That may be the true legacy of empire, not dominance, connection, a vast experiment in linking distant peoples together. As darkness settles across the city, lamps glow beside streets that stretch toward the horizon. And beneath the stars, humanity continues building worlds larger than any single person can fully comprehend. Section 16, Faith that cross continents. The road continues. It always seems to. Empires rise, flourish, and struggle. Yet the pathways connecting people remain. Merchants still travel. Families still migrate. Travelers still carry stories from one horizon to another. This morning you walk beneath a pale sky streaked with soft clouds. The air smells of dust, wild herbs, and distant campfires. Birds drift overhead, while caravans move steadily along a route worn smooth by centuries of footsteps. Something else is traveling these roads now. Not goods, not armies. Ideas about meaning. Ideas about purpose. Ideas about how human beings should live. The ancient world is entering an age when beliefs begin crossing continents. Faiths that once belonged to local communities start reaching distant populations. Messages carried by teachers, pilgrims, traders, and travelers spread far beyond their places of origin. The effects will be profound. You arrive at a busy crossroads where people from many backgrounds gather. Languages mix in the marketplace. Different clothing styles reveal different origins. The scent of bread spices, incense, and wood smoke fills the air. Yet amid all this diversity, conversations often return to similar questions. Why are we here? How should we treat one another? What happens after death? How should a society be organized? These questions are ancient. The search for answers becomes increasingly organized. You sit beneath a shaded structure while travelers exchange stories. One speaks of teachings heard in a distant city. Another describes a pilgrimage completed after many months of travel. Ideas spread surprisingly well when people move. sometimes faster than governments, sometimes farther than armies. Historians often point to traditions such as Buddhism, Christianity, and Islam as examples of belief systems that expanded far beyond their original homelands, influencing cultures across vast regions. Each followed a unique path. Each adapted to different societies. Each left lasting marks on history. What makes these movements remarkable is not simply their survival. It is their ability to connect strangers. A traveler arriving in an unfamiliar city may find shared beliefs creating immediate bonds with people never previously met. The power of shared identity grows. You continue your journey through a landscape dotted with villages, monasteries, temples, and gathering places. The smell of fresh vegetation follows recent rainfall. Wind moves gently through fields, while bells ring softly from a distant hilltop. These places serve many purposes. They provide spiritual guidance. They offer education. They preserve knowledge. They create communities. In some regions, religious institutions become among the most stable organizations in society. Empires may change. Dynasties may disappear. Belief systems often endure. One fascinating historical detail involves the role of monasteries and religious centers in preserving texts. During periods of political uncertainty, scholars and religious communities sometimes copied and protected important works that might otherwise have vanished. Their efforts shaped the future, often without realizing it. The preservation of knowledge can be as important as its creation. By midday, sunlight warms the countryside. The smell of baking bread drifts from a nearby village. Children play near wells, while travelers rest beneath shaded trees. You observe how beliefs influence daily life. Festivals mark the seasons. Ceremonies celebrate important moments. Shared traditions strengthen community bonds. Faith becomes woven into ordinary routines, not merely reserved for special occasions. This integration gives belief systems remarkable staying power. They've become a part of personal identity, part of family life, part of culture itself. A scholarly debate continues regarding exactly why certain religious movements spread so successfully, while others remained more localized. Historians point to trade routes, political support, social structures, and compelling ethical teachings. No single factor explains every case. Human societies are too complex for that. The answers vary across time and place. As afternoon unfolds, you arrive at a bustling city where multiple traditions coexist. Temples, shrines, and gathering places stand within walking distance of one another. The smell of incense drifts through some streets. Elsewhere, the scent of food and market activity dominates the air. The city feels alive with ideas. Not all interactions are peaceful. Differences sometimes create tension. Debates occur. Disagreements emerge. Such outcomes are horribly surprising. Humans care deeply about beliefs. They always have. Yet alongside conflict, there is also exchange. Ideas influence one another. Art styles blend. Philosophical concepts travel. Cultures borrow and adapt. The result is often more complicated than simple opposition. History tends to favor complexity. A quirky historical mystery involves certain legends and stories that appear in surprisingly different regions. Scholars continue debating how some narratives traveled so widely before modern communication existed. Trade may explain part of it. Migration may explain another part. Some questions remain unresolved. The stories themselves continue. As afternoon fades toward evening, golden sunlight illuminates rooftops and stone pathways. Long shadows stretch across public squares. The city gradually settles into a calmer rhythm. You join a gathering where travelers share experiences from distant lands. The smell of evening meals drifts through the cooling air. Nearby voices discuss ethics, philosophy, and faith. The conversation feels timeless. People seeking meaning, people seeking connection, people seeking understanding. The search itself becomes a common thread linking civilizations. Above the first stars appear. The same stars observed by hunters, on Ice Age plains farmers, beside ancient rivers, merchants on crowded roads, and philosophers beneath open skies. Humanity has changed dramatically, yet certain questions remain. Who are we? Why are we here? How should we live? Faith traditions offer answers, different answers, sometimes compelling answers, often deeply meaningful ones. As darkness settles across the city, lamps glow warmly beside streets filled with travelers from many lands. Beliefs continue moving along roads and sea routes, crossing mountains, crossing deserts, crossing generations. The ideas carried by these travelers will shape kingdoms, inspire art, influence laws, and guide countless lives. And beneath the stars, humanity continues its long search for meaning, carrying its questions forward into the centuries ahead. Section 17. Innovation through turbulent times. The centuries turn quietly. No trumpet announces the transition. No single sunrise reveals that the world has entered a different age. Most people wake, work, eat, and sleep, much as their parents did. Yet beneath the surface, change is gathering. You travel through a landscape shaped by uncertainty. The morning air feels cool and damp. Mist clings to fields beyond city walls. The scent of wet earth, wood smoke, and livestock drifts across the countryside. The world is becoming more connected. It is also becoming more turbulent. Empires rise and fall. Trade routes shift. New kingdoms emerge while old ones fragment. Disease, conflict, migration, and environmental pressures reshape societies in ways nobody fully controls. Difficult periods often inspire creativity. Humanity is about to demonstrate that truth once again. You enter a town where craftsmen are already beginning their day's work. Hammers strike metal. Wheels creak across stone roads. The smell of charcoal fires fills the morning air. Life remains challenging, yet innovation continues. It always does. Historians sometimes describe certain eras as periods of decline or instability. The labels can be misleading. While political systems struggle, ordinary people continue solving problems, improving techniques, and adapting to changing circumstances. Progress rarely moves in a straight line. It zigzags. A society may lose one capability while gaining another. You walk through a workshop where skilled artisans experiment with new methods. Tools lie scattered across wooden tables. Metal glows faintly within a furnace. The air smells of smoke iron and heated stone. Every improvement matters. A stronger tool, a better plow, a more efficient mill. Small innovations often produce large consequences over time. Most breakthroughs do not appear dramatic in the moment. Their importance becomes visible only later. One fascinating example involves watermills and windmills. Communities gradually develop methods for harnessing natural forces to perform labor previously requiring human or animal effort. The idea seems simple. The impact is enormous. Machines begin sharing the workload, not replacing people, assisting them. Historians still debate the precise economic impact of some early technologies. Certain regions adopted innovations rapidly, others changed more slowly. The pattern varied widely. Human societies rarely move in unison. By midday, sunlight breaks through the clouds. Warm air carries the scent of grain fields and freshly cut wood. You travel along a road linking several towns where merchants exchange goods and information. Knowledge continues moving, sometimes quietly, sometimes dramatically. A new farming technique spreads from one village to another. A navigation method reaches distant ports. A manufacturing process improves productivity across an entire region. Ideas remain among humanity's most valuable resources. Unlike food or metal, they can be shared without being depleted. A curious historical detail highlights this beautifully. Many inventions traditionally associated with a single culture actually evolved through contributions from multiple societies, exchanging ideas across centuries. Innovation is often collaborative, even when participants never meet. The story of human progress resembles a conversation extending across generations. As afternoon approaches, you arrive at a monastery perched on a hillside. The scent of parchment candle wax and old wood fills the quiet halls. Inside, scholars copy manuscripts carefully by hand. The work appears almost tedious, yet it matters profoundly. Knowledge survives because someone chooses to preserve it. Many texts reach future generations only because countless individuals spent years copying fragile documents. Patience becomes a historical force. The scholars likely do not see themselves as shaping the future, yet they are. A scholarly uncertainty continues to fascinate historians. Many ancient works disappeared entirely, while others survived through surprisingly unlikely circumstances. Why some texts endured while others vanished remains partly mysterious. Chance plays a role. Human decisions play a role. History depends upon both. You leave the monastery and continue toward a busy port city. The smell of salt air arrives long before the coastline becomes visible. Seabirds circle overhead while ships move across distant waters. Maritime trade is expanding. Sailors connect regions separated by vast distances. Goods, people, and ideas cross seas that once seemed insurmountable. The horizon grows wider, so does human ambition. Navigation techniques improve gradually. Shipbuilding advances steadily. Maps become more detailed, not perfect. Better. That distinction drives much of history. Incremental improvement accumulates over time. The results can transform entire civilizations. As afternoon shadows lengthen, you watch merchants unloading cargo from distant lands. Spices, textiles, metals, and knowledge arrive together. Trade creates opportunity. Opportunity encourages experimentation. Experimentation produces innovation. The cycle continues. A quirky historical mystery involves several inventions that appear almost simultaneously in different regions. Historians still debate whether these developments resulted from direct contact or independent discovery. Sometimes the evidence remains inconclusive. The uncertainty itself tells an important story. Human creativity emerges in many places. As evening approaches, golden sunlight reflects across the harbor. Ships sway gently against wooden docks. The smell of salt water mixes with cooking food drifting from nearby streets. You sit beside a gathering of travelers, discussing recent developments. A new technique in one city, a political change in another, an improved tool somewhere else. The world feels dynamic, always moving, always adapting. The centuries ahead will bring enormous transformations. Some will emerge from famous rulers and major events. Many will emerge from ordinary people solving practical problems. A farmer improving irrigation, a craftsperson refining a tool, a scholar preserving knowledge, a sailor testing a new route. History often grows from countless small efforts. The stars appear above the harbor one by one. Waves lap gently against the shore. Lamps glow along the waterfront. The atmosphere feels peaceful. Yet beneath that calm surface, humanity is preparing for another leap forward. Innovation continues accumulating. Knowledge continues spreading. Curiosity continues growing, even during uncertain times, especially during uncertain times. As darkness settles across the sea, you realize something remarkable. The future is being built already, not by a single civilization, not by a single invention, by millions of people adapting learning and sharing ideas across generations. And beneath the endless night sky, humanity quietly prepares for changes that will soon reshape the world once again. Section 18. Machines change everything. The sound reaches you first. A rhythmic clanking, a steady pounding, a mechanical pulse unlike anything heard before in human history. Morning fog hangs low over a growing city as you walk toward the source. The air smells of coal smoke, damp stone and metal. Chimneys rise above rooftops. Dark plumes drift into the pale sky. Humanity is entering another transformation, and this one moves faster than any before it. For thousands of years, most people lived close to the land. Agriculture shaped daily life. Villages and towns served as the centers of community. Change happened gradually. Now machines are beginning to alter that rhythm. The pace of history accelerates. You approach a factory near the edge of the city. Workers stream through large doors as the day begins. The building hums with activity even before sunrise. Inside, gears turn, belts move, steam hisses. The smell of oil and heated metal fills the air. The scene feels astonishing. Not because machines exist. Simple machines have existed for centuries. What feels different is scale. Power itself is being transformed. For much of human history, labor depended on muscles. Human muscles. Animal muscles. Occasionally wind or flowing water. Now, new energy sources allow machines to perform work on unprecedented levels. The implications reach everywhere. Historians often associate this transformation with the Industrial Revolution, a period during which technological innovation dramatically altered production, transportation, and daily life. The phrase sounds tidy. The reality was messy, complicated, uneven, profound. You walk through busy streets as sunlight gradually breaks through the morning haze. The city feels alive with movement. Wagons transport goods. Merchants open shops. Workers hurry toward factories. The population is growing rapidly. People leave rural communities seeking opportunities in urban centers. Cities expand faster than planners can comfortably manage. The results are mixed. New possibilities emerge. New problems emerge too. Progress rarely travels alone. By midday, the streets are crowded. The smell of coal smoke mingles with fresh bread, horse-drawn traffic, and industrial activity. Buildings rise higher than before. Construction seems constant. You notice something remarkable. Products that once required days or weeks to create can now be manufactured much more quickly. Clothing, tools, household goods. Production expands dramatically. For many people, previously expensive items become more accessible. Standards of living improve in some ways. Yet the transition carries costs. Factory work often proves demanding. Urban overcrowding creates challenges. Pollution affects air and water quality. History offers benefits. History sends invoices too. One fascinating detail from this era involves public reaction to new technologies. Some people greeted innovations with excitement. Others viewed them with suspicion or fear. Both responses make sense. Major change can inspire hope. Major change can inspire anxiety. Human nature has not changed much. You pause near a railway station, where steam-powered locomotives prepare for departure. The smell of smoke and hot metal fills the air. Passengers gather along platforms carrying luggage and expectations. The train represents more than transportation. It represents speed. For thousands of years, travel times remained relatively stable. A journey requiring weeks often continued, requiring weeks. Now distances begin shrinking, not physically, practically. Cities become connected more closely than ever before. Goods move faster. People move faster. Ideas move faster. The entire world begins feeling smaller. Historians still debate which innovations proved most important during this period. Steam engines, railroads, manufacturing techniques, financial systems, and communication technologies all played significant roles. No single invention transformed everything alone. Progress emerged through interaction. Innovation tends to travel in groups. As afternoon unfolds, you visit a workshop where engineers and inventors test new designs. The atmosphere feels energetic. The smell of metal filings and machine oil lingers in the air. Curiosity thrives here. Experimentation thrives here. Failure thrives here too. Many inventions do not succeed. That is part of the process. Every successful innovation stands atop numerous unsuccessful attempts. History often remembers the winners. It quietly forgets most of the experiments. A quirky historical observation illustrates this perfectly. During periods of rapid technological change, newspapers regularly reported inventions that promised to transform society, but quickly disappeared. The future is difficult to predict, even for people living inside it. You continue through the city, while afternoon sunlight filters through industrial haze. Factories, offices, warehouses, schools, and shops create an increasingly complex urban environment. Education becomes more important. Technical knowledge becomes more valuable. Specialized skills become increasingly necessary. The economy changes. Society changes. Daily life changes. Human expectations change. A child born during this era may experience more technological change in a lifetime than many earlier generations experienced across centuries. The acceleration feels extraordinary. As evening approaches, gas lamps illuminate streets, while workers return home after long days. The city remains active long after sunset. That itself feels significant. Artificial lighting extends productive hours. Another small innovation. Another large consequence. The pattern continues. You sit near a public square where conversations revolve around inventions, business opportunities, politics, and the future. The future. People discuss it constantly now. Not merely next season. Not merely next year. The future itself becomes a subject of fascination. Progress appears limitless to some observers. Others remain skeptical. Both perspectives contain wisdom. The machine age brings remarkable achievements. It also creates challenges that humanity is still learning to address. Above, the first stars emerge through gaps in the smoky sky. Their light remains unchanged, despite everything happening below. Factories continue operating. Trains continue moving. Cities continue growing. The world is transforming at astonishing speed. Yet beneath all the machinery, the story remains deeply human. People seeking better lives. People solving problems. People adapting to change. The same motivations that guided ancient farmers, merchants, and explorers continue shaping the modern age. Only the tools have changed. As darkness settles across the city, steam whistles echo in the distance. Lamps glow along crowded streets. Machines continue their steady rhythm. And beneath the stars, humanity enters an era where invention itself becomes one of the most powerful forces in history. Section 19, a planet connected. The world hums with connections. You wake before dawn, in a city illuminated by countless lights. The air carries the scent of rain-soaked pavement, fresh coffee engine exhaust, and the distant sea. Far above, aircraft cross the dark sky. Beneath your feet, roads, railways, cables, and pipelines stretch toward horizons that once seemed impossibly distant. Humanity has entered an age of extraordinary connectivity. The journey that began with small groups walking across African grasslands has led here, a planet increasingly linked together. You step into the awakening city as the first light appears in the east. People hurry toward trains and buses. Ships approach crowded ports. Messages travel across continents in moments. The scale feels astonishing. For most of history, information moved no faster than a horse could run or a ship could sail. Now ideas circle the globe almost instantly. Distance still exists. Its power has diminished. The transformation has unfolded through countless innovations. Railways connected regions. Telegraph lines accelerated communication. Telephones shortened conversations across great distances. Aircraft compressed travel times dramatically. Each breakthrough built upon earlier ones. The network expanded. The pace accelerated. You walk through a transportation hub alive with movement. The smell of fuel, food, and damp air mingles around thousands of travelers. Different languages fill the space. People arrive from cities separated by oceans. The scene would seem miraculous to earlier generations, perhaps impossible, yet here it is. Ordinary. That may be the most remarkable part. Human beings adapt quickly to extraordinary achievements. What once inspires awe eventually becomes routine. Historians often point to developments such as the age of globalization as a continuation of trends that began with ancient trade routes, but accelerated dramatically through modern technology and transportation. The process remains ongoing. No clear finish line exists. Global connection creates opportunities unlike any previous era. Knowledge spreads rapidly. Scientific discoveries reach international audiences. Cultural influences cross borders constantly. The world becomes a shared conversation, not always a harmonious one, a shared one. By midday, you visit a bustling commercial district where products from dozens of countries fill store shelves. The smell of food from multiple culinary traditions drifts through the air. The diversity feels remarkable. A person may eat ingredients grown on different continents during a single meal. Such experiences would have seemed extraordinary through most of history. Now they are commonplace in many places. Global networks influence nearly every aspect of daily life: trade, communication, entertainment, education, science. The connections run deep. One fascinating detail involves the international nature of modern research. Scientific breakthroughs increasingly result from collaboration among teams spread across multiple countries. Knowledge grows collectively. On a planetary scale, the idea would have delighted many ancient scholars. It might also have overwhelmed them. You continue walking while observing the rhythms of modern life. Screens display information from around the world. News travels continuously. Financial markets respond to events occurring thousands of miles away. Interdependence becomes impossible to ignore. The benefits are substantial. The vulnerabilities are substantial too. Historians and social scientists continue debating the long-term consequences of globalization. Some emphasize economic growth and cultural exchange. Others highlight inequality, environmental pressures, and social disruption. Both perspectives reveal important truths. Complex systems rarely produce simple outcomes. As afternoon unfolds, you visit a museum displaying artifacts from earlier chapters of humanity's story. Stone tools, ancient pottery, handwritten manuscripts. The contrast feels striking. You stand before objects created by people who could never have imagined the world outside. Yet without them, the modern world would not exist. Every stage contributed something. The hunters, the farmers, the builders, the philosophers, the inventors, the explorers. History resembles a relay race more than a competition. Each generation carries the story forward. A curious scholarly debate continues regarding how future historians will interpret the present era. Which innovations will matter most? Which events will seem decisive? Which developments will appear surprisingly minor? The answers remain unknowable. Perspective changes everything. Many important moments reveal their significance only later. As afternoon shadows lengthen, you arrive at a coastal overlook. The sea stretches toward the horizon. Cargo ships move steadily across distant waters. Aircraft leave thin trails high above. The world feels connected physically. It also feels connected emotionally. A natural disaster in one region draws concern from others. Scientific achievements inspire global attention. Cultural creations find audiences far beyond their origins. Humanity increasingly experiences certain events together, not perfectly, more than ever before. The sense of shared destiny grows stronger. Challenges reflect that reality. Climate, health, resource management, technological ethics. Many modern questions cross national boundaries. The solutions often require cooperation on unprecedented scales. A lesson humanity has been practicing for a very long time, working together, first in small bands, then villages, then cities, then civilizations, now perhaps globally. As evening approaches, the setting sun paints the sky with shades of gold, orange, and violet. The smell of salt air grows stronger. Waves break gently against the shoreline below. You sit quietly and watch the lights appear across the city. Thousands, then tens of thousands, a constellation created by human hands. The sight feels beautiful and humbling. All around you are the results of countless generations of effort. Every road-building bridge book and invention traces its ancestry back through thousands of years of accumulated knowledge. Nothing emerged alone. Everything connects. Above, stars begin appearing in the darkening sky, the same stars observed by the earliest ancestors walking across ancient grasslands. The same stars studied by philosophers, navigators, and astronomers. The sky remains familiar. The world below has changed beyond recognition. Yet humanity continues carrying forward the same essential qualities: curiosity, adaptability, creativity, cooperation. The tools have evolved. The scale has expanded. The story continues. As night settles across the connected planet, signals travel invisibly through networks spanning oceans and continents. Aircraft cross time zones. Ships move through international waters. Conversations occur between people separated by vast distances. The world has become a web of relationships, complex, dynamic, remarkable, and beneath the stars, humanity stands more connected than ever before, preparing to consider what this extraordinary journey might mean. Section 20. The long human journey. The night feels quieter now. You stand beneath a sky filled with stars, much as your earliest ancestors once did. A gentle breeze moves through the darkness. The scent of earth, distant water, and cool evening air lingers around you. The world has changed beyond recognition, and yet in certain ways it has not changed at all. You have traveled an astonishing distance, not across miles, across time, from small groups of upright walkers moving cautiously through ancient grasslands to a planet linked by cities, technologies, and ideas. The journey seems almost impossible when viewed all at once, yet it happened one step at a time, one generation at a time, one decision at a time. You imagine those earliest ancestors again. They possessed no maps of the future, no knowledge of civilizations, no understanding of what their descendants would become. They simply survived. They adapted. They learned. That was enough. The great story of humanity is not a story of destiny unfolding according to a perfect plan. It is a story of countless individuals responding to challenges, opportunities, and mysteries they could not fully understand. A child learning from a parent, a traveler exploring beyond a familiar horizon, a farmer planting seeds, a scholar asking questions, an inventor testing an idea. Together, these ordinary moments created extraordinary outcomes. The air grows cooler as you reflect on the long path behind you. The smell of wood smoke drifts faintly through the night. Somewhere nearby, water moves steadily through a river channel, just as rivers have guided human communities for thousands of years. Certain patterns appear again and again throughout history: curiosity, cooperation, adaptability. Whenever humanity faced uncertainty, those qualities often provided the way forward. Not perfectly, not consistently, but repeatedly. You think of the first controlled fires glowing against Ice Age darkness, the first artists painting cave walls, the first farmers tending fields beside rivers, the first scribes pressing symbols into clay. None of them knew they were participating in something larger. Most people never do. History often feels ordinary while it is happening. Its significance becomes visible only later. Historians still debate many details of humanity's journey. Questions remain about migrations, innovations, cultural exchanges, and lost civilizations. The uncertainties matter. They remind us that history is not a completed puzzle. It is an ongoing investigation. New discoveries continue appearing. Ancient stories continue revealing surprises. The past remains alive with unanswered questions. That may be one reason history remains so fascinating. It never becomes completely settled. As the evening deepens, you imagine the countless lives that filled the centuries between humanity's beginning and the present day. Most names have been forgotten. Most stories disappeared long ago. Yet their influence remains. Every field cultivated, every road constructed, every idea shared, every lesson taught. The world inherited all of it. Civilization itself resembles a vast conversation extending across generations. Each person contributes a few words before passing the discussion onward. No one hears the entire conversation. Everyone helps shape it. A curious truth emerges from this realization. The people who changed history were not always rulers, generals, or famous thinkers. Many were ordinary individuals solving practical problems. A farmer improving irrigation, a craftsperson refining a technique, a teacher sharing knowledge, a parent preparing a child for the future. History grows through accumulation. Small actions matter. Repeated often enough, they reshape the world. The stars shine steadily overhead. They watched humanity learn to walk upright. They watched cities rise beside rivers. They watched empires expand and disappear. They watched ships cross oceans and machines transform industries. Through it all, the stars remained. Silent witnesses. The perspective feels calming. Human achievements are remarkable. Human challenges are real. Yet the universe remains vast beyond imagination. Perhaps there is comfort in that. You do not need to solve every mystery. You do not need to predict every future development. The story continues whether any individual fully understands it or not. And still participation matters. The long human journey remains unfinished. Future generations will inherit opportunities and challenges that cannot yet be imagined. They will ask new questions. They will discover new possibilities. They will confront problems unknown to earlier eras. Just as every generation before them did, the path continues forward, always. Now the night grows softer. The sounds around you become gentler. The breeze moves slowly through the darkness. The scent of earth remains fresh and familiar. Somewhere beyond sight, water continues its patient journey toward distant seas. You sit quietly beneath the stars. No cities, no kingdoms, no timelines. Only the simple awareness that you belong to a story stretching far beyond any single lifetime. A story that began with uncertain footsteps beneath ancient skies. A story still unfolding. A story carried forward by countless people whose names may never appear in history books, yet whose lives matter all the same. The world feels peaceful. The journey feels complete. For now. And as the stars continue their silent passage overhead, you allow the centuries to settle gently into the darkness behind you. The long road from humanity's first steps to modern civilization fades into the distance. The fires grow dim. The voices grow quiet. The night becomes still, and you rest beneath the same sky that watched it all. The wind moves softly through the darkness now. There is nothing left to build tonight. Nothing left to solve. The great cities sleep. The ancient roads fade into memory. The rivers continue flowing, as they always have, carrying reflections of stars across their calm surfaces. You think once more of those first travelers standing beneath unfamiliar skies. They could not see the future, yet they walked forward anyway. That quiet courage echoes through every age, through farmers waiting for harvests, through sailors crossing unknown waters, through scholars pursuing difficult questions, through ordinary people hoping for a better tomorrow. The human story was never only about monuments or inventions. It was also about perseverance, about learning, about continuing onward despite uncertainty. Now even those thoughts begin drifting away. The stars remain overhead. The earth remains beneath you. The night wraps gently around the world. The centuries soften into silence. The hunters-builders, rulers, thinkers, merchants, artists, and dreamers all become part of a single vast memory stretching across time. And somewhere within that memory, your journey through their world comes peacefully to an end. The breeze slows. The darkness deepens. The story rests, and sleep arrives gently, like a traveler returning home after a very long road.